In the vast deserts of Egypt, beneath the burning sun and shifting sands, lies a world that refuses to give up its secrets. Ancient stones whisper stories older than history itself, stories that defy logic, that challenge what we think we know about human civilization. For centuries, scholars, scientists, and explorers have searched for answers among these ruins. Yet the more they uncover, the stranger it becomes. Precision carvings made thousands of years before modern tools existed. Massive monuments aligned perfectly with celestial bodies. Artifacts etched with symbols no one can fully decode. Were these the works of an extraordinary ancient intelligence? Or something even more mysterious? Each discovery deepens the enigma, raising questions science still struggles to explain. How did they achieve such impossible feats? What knowledge has been lost or hidden through the ages? Tonight, we journey beyond the textbooks and into the unknown. 3 hours of astonishing evidence, unanswered riddles, and the haunting beauty of a civilization that might have known far more than we dare to imagine. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into the bizarre, unexplained mysteries of ancient Egypt. In the shifting sands of Upper Egypt, near the banks of the life-giving Nile, the earliest traces of human civilization quietly endure. Here, in the arid desert that has swallowed countless empires, a figure emerges from the shadows of prehistory, a king whose name evokes both awe and enigma, the Scorpion King. The very mention conjures images of ritual, power, and an Egypt still shrouded in its formative years, before the grandeur of pyramids and dynasties became familiar to the world. Archaeologists first uncovered fragments of this ancient ruler's legacy at the site of Hierakonpolis, a sprawling settlement that predates the unified kingdom. Among pottery shards, ceremonial palettes, and incised stone carvings, the most compelling artifact is the famed scorpion mace head, a ceremonial object depicting a figure wearing the symbol of the scorpion on his head, overseeing laborers or perhaps performing ritual acts. Its significance is difficult to overstate. It is one of the earliest pieces of evidence suggesting centralized authority in Egypt. Yet even after decades of study, the identity and reign of the Scorpion King remain frustratingly elusive. Who was he? How much of his rule can be traced through these sparse relics? And what does the scorpion symbolize? Death, power, protection, or something even more arcane? Scholars have debated the timeline, with radiocarbon dating and stratigraphy offering some clarity, placing his reign around 3200 BCE. Yet beyond dates and fragments, almost everything else is speculative. Some suggest that the Scorpion King played a pivotal role in uniting Upper and Lower Egypt, acting as a precursor to the dynastic pharaohs. Others note the iconography's unusual prominence of the scorpion, an emblem not repeated in later Egyptian regalia, hinting at rituals or beliefs that were later suppressed, transformed, or forgotten. The landscape itself seems to guard its secrets. Hierakonpolis, once a bustling urban center, is now a quiet field of mud brick foundations and weathered stone. Sand fills the spaces between walls where ancient courtyards once echoed with the shouts of laborers. Archaeologists painstakingly uncover remnants of irrigation channels and ceremonial structures, each discovery adding to our understanding, yet raising more questions. How did a single figure command the loyalty of such a complex society so early in Egyptian history? Were his accomplishments primarily martial, political, spiritual, or all three simultaneously? Complicating matters further are interpretations drawn from comparative mythology. In some texts, scorpions are agents of divine justice, protectors of sacred spaces, or symbols of deadly retribution. Could these early depictions reflect an enduring spiritual framework that informed the rise of kingship? Or were they literal references to a warrior who embodied the scorpion's lethal precision? Fringe theories, though often controversial, cannot be ignored entirely. A handful of researchers speculate that the Scorpion King might have wielded knowledge or technologies now lost to time, that his power was somehow amplified by forgotten rituals, or that he occupied a place in history more symbolic than factual, a figure whose true story was deliberately obscured by the sands of time. Yet despite centuries of excavation and study, tangible evidence remains frustratingly limited. Only a handful of objects can be definitively associated with him, and even then, interpretations vary. The lack of written records from this transitional period in Egyptian history forces historians to rely heavily on artistic depictions and the subtle clues embedded within them. Every line etched on stone, every ceremonial posture captured on a mace head, offers a tantalizing glimpse, but never the full picture. Each discovery is a whisper across millennia, hinting at authority, ritual, and ambition, yet leaving the human narrative frustratingly incomplete. Even the name Scorpion King itself is an interpretive construction. We do not know the exact pronunciation, nor the full meaning the ancient Egyptians intended. Was the scorpion merely a totem of protection, or did it denote a particular region, a divine mandate, or even a military symbol? Could this ruler have been both feared and revered in ways modern historians struggle to imagine? His life and achievements partially mythologized by a culture still in the process of defining kingship? The more we uncover, the more the mystery deepens. Each artifact is a piece of a puzzle whose edges seem to dissolve as quickly as we fit them together. The Scorpion King exists somewhere between history and legend, a spectral presence whose achievements shaped a civilization, yet whose personal story remains tantalizingly out of reach. Perhaps, somewhere beneath the layers of sand and sediment, more evidence lies waiting. Tombs yet unexcavated, inscriptions yet to be found, clues that could illuminate not only his life, but the formative years of one of history's greatest civilizations. And so, as we stand at the edge of this ancient world, staring into the remnants of early Egyptian power, one question lingers. Who was the Scorpion King, and what truths about his reign have the desert chosen to guard so jealously? The answer, it seems, remains hidden, as elusive as the shifting sands themselves. From the shadowed sands of pre-dynastic Egypt, our journey now moves forward in time to the height of the New Kingdom, where power, artistry, and ambition reached staggering heights. Amid the grand monuments of the 18th dynasty, one figure stands out: Queen Tiye, great royal wife of Amenemhat III and mother of Akhenaten. Unlike her royal husband, whose tombs and monuments have been studied exhaustively, Tiye's own final resting place remains shrouded in mystery, a puzzle that continues to captivate archaeologists and historians alike. The search for her tomb leads us deep into the Valley of the Kings, a narrow wadi carved from limestone cliffs and long etched with the echoes of dynasties. The sun bleaches the rocks by day, but in the shadows of these ancient corridors, time feels suspended. Scholars have long debated the location of Tiye's burial. Some suggest KV-55, a chamber partially stripped and long contested, as a possible candidate, its walls inscribed with ambiguous hieroglyphs and its contents a jumble of artifacts that hint at royal connections, yet defy clear identification. Others point to nearby unexplored tombs, small and unassuming, that may yet conceal the remains of a queen whose influence on Egyptian history was profound. Historical records tell us much about Tiye's life. She was a woman of remarkable intelligence and political acumen, whose counsel helped shape the reign of Amenemhat III and, later, her son Akhenaten's radical religious reforms. She appears frequently in statuary and correspondence, depicted with a presence that rivals the pharaoh himself. Yet the details of her death and burial are almost entirely absent from the historical record. Why would such a significant figure leave so few traces of her final journey? Was her tomb lost to time, destroyed, or deliberately hidden? Artifacts linked to Tiye have fueled both scholarship and speculation. A striking example is the array of funerary objects associated with KV-55, a gilded coffin, a mysterious set of amulets, and skeletal remains that have prompted debates over age, sex, and identity. Forensic examinations and DNA studies have offered tantalizing clues, yet each answer seems to generate new questions. If the remains are indeed hers, what explains the anomalies in the burial? If not, where else might she lie, waiting beneath layers of rock and sand, her story only partially told? Even more puzzling are the iconographic inconsistencies. Statues and reliefs show Tiye adorned with symbols of power uncommon for a queen of her time. The uraeus cobra, a sign of sovereignty usually reserved for pharaohs, and regalia suggesting a spiritual authority that may have rivaled her husband's. Did these depictions reflect her actual role in the court? Or were they aspirational, symbolic, or even political statements meant to assert her influence? And if Tiye wielded such power in life, how does that reconcile with the apparent ambiguity surrounding her death and burial? Fringe theories have emerged alongside conventional scholarship, proposing that Tiye's tomb, or at least elements of it, might have been moved, concealed, or even looted in antiquity. Some suggest that her burial was tied to secret religious practices, linked to early Aten worship, or esoteric rituals that prefigured Akhenaten's later reforms. Could it be that Tiye's final resting place was intentionally veiled to protect sacred knowledge, a sanctuary whose existence remains deliberately hidden? Despite decades of excavation and research, the question of Queen Tiye's tomb continues to elude definitive answers. Every artifact, every inscription offers a piece of the puzzle, yet the whole picture remains out of reach. The limestone corridors of the Valley of the Kings guard their secrets well, and the sands beyond hold the silent testimony of countless hands that shaped, moved, and sometimes erased the traces of history. Standing amid these ruins, it is impossible not to wonder at the layers of time that conceal her story. Did she rest in a tomb now lost, or in one yet to be discovered? Was her burial simple, as some fragments suggest, or lavish, a reflection of a queen who wielded power in ways few women before or since have? The mystery lingers, a whisper across the centuries, inviting us to question what remains hidden beneath the rocks and sands of Egypt, and what stories of influence, ambition, and devotion may never be fully revealed. From the quiet corridors of royal tombs and the shadowed sands of the Valley of the Kings, our journey now shifts to a symbol of creation itself, the enigmatic Benben stone. Unlike the tombs of queens or the artifacts of long-dead kings, this object occupies a space that blurs the boundary between material and myth, a relic as much of spiritual significance as of historical curiosity. It rests, or once rested, at the heart of Heliopolis, the ancient city of the sun, a place where priests and astronomers sought to understand the cosmos and their place within it. The Benben stone, a pyramidal or conical object of dark, polished granite, is often described as the capstone of the earliest solar shrines. In some depictions, it gleams atop obelisks or temple sanctuaries, catching the first rays of dawn and reflecting the sun's brilliance across the stone floors of sacred precincts. Its shape, precise and symmetrical, suggests careful craftsmanship, yet it is unlike any other stonework of its time. Scholars have long debated its purpose. Was it purely symbolic, representing the primordial mound from which creation emerged? Or did it have a functional role in ancient rituals or astronomical observations? Heliopolitan texts offer hints, yet no definitive explanation. The Benben is intimately linked to the god Atum, who, according to Egyptian cosmology, rose from the primeval waters on this sacred mound to begin creation. In this context, the stone becomes more than a relic. It is a physical embodiment of the moment of creation, a connection between the divine and the earthly. Yet despite its central role in myth, the stone's material origins remain unclear. Where did it come from? Was it quarried from a distant, now forgotten source? Or was its selection guided by criteria beyond mere geology? Some inscriptions hint at sacred properties, almost as if the stone itself contained a kind of power. Excavations and historical records provide fragments of understanding, but each fact seems to lead to new questions. Ancient texts suggest the Benben stone may have been relocated several times, eventually forming the core of temples or even serving as the prototype for the capstones of the pyramids. Could this explain the recurring geometric precision seen in monumental architecture across Egypt? Some archaeologists posit that the shape and orientation of the stone might have been tied to solar alignments, a marker for solstices, equinoxes, or celestial observations. Yet no records fully clarify the methods by which the ancients achieved such precision, methods that continue to astonish modern engineers. Speculative theories abound, each adding layers to the stone's mystique. A small number of researchers suggest that the Benben might have had properties beyond symbolism, a focus for ritual energy, a conduit for sunlight, or even an object imbued with acoustic or electromagnetic qualities that we do not yet comprehend. Ancient Egyptian sources occasionally hint at its capacity to channel divine power, a claim impossible to verify, but compelling in its consistency across centuries of religious texts. Could the object have been central to ceremonies that are now lost to history? Rituals so secretive that only the high priests of Heliopolis knew the true purpose of the stone? Even its physical form remains a subject of debate. Some depictions show the Benben as a sharply pointed obelisk, others as a smooth, slightly rounded pyramid, and still others as a flat-topped or irregularly shaped stone. This variance has led some to speculate that multiple stones bore the same name, each serving as a ceremonial focus in different eras or locations. If true, the Benben becomes not a single artifact but a recurring symbol, a tangible manifestation of a philosophical or religious principle that shaped Egyptian culture for millennia. What is perhaps most remarkable is how this object bridges human imagination and the material world. It is at once a stone, crafted, heavy, and tangible, and a symbol of the intangible, representing the very concept of creation, the emergence of order from chaos. Its presence in temples, its depiction in art, and the reverence with which it was treated suggest a power that transcends ordinary stonework. How did the ancients select, shape, and position it with such precision? And why does the Benben continue to captivate scholars, mystics, and enthusiasts alike, drawing attention despite the centuries that have passed since its first veneration? Even modern attempts to locate the original Benben or trace its movements are fraught with ambiguity. The stone may have been lost, destroyed, or incorporated into later structures, its identity masked by layers of subsequent construction. Some fragments identified in museums as Benben may be later approximations or ceremonial copies, leaving the question of the original's fate tantalizingly unresolved. As we examine its surviving depictions, reflect on its possible locations, and consider the ceremonial importance ascribed to it, the Benben stone emerges as a bridge across time, a silent witness to human ambition, faith, and ingenuity. Perhaps it was intended to inspire awe, or perhaps it held secrets that the ancients deliberately kept from prying eyes. Standing before its shadow, whether in the imagination or in surviving artifacts, we are left to wonder, was the Benben stone merely a symbol of creation, or was it something more, a key to understanding the cosmos as the Egyptians themselves may have seen it? The mystery endures, inviting us to peer into the intersection of history, myth, and the unknowable, and to consider what other secrets the sands of Heliopolis may yet conceal. From the sun-baked plains of Heliopolis and the shadowed recesses of royal temples, our journey now returns to the Valley of the Kings, to a tomb that embodies both the grandeur and the mysteries of Egypt's new kingdom, the tomb of Seti I. Unlike the ephemeral whispers of legends surrounding the Benben stone, Seti's tomb is a tangible labyrinthine monument, carved into the living rock of a desolate wadi where the air is dry and still, and time itself seems suspended. Even today, the faint echo of footsteps on limestone floors can evoke the presence of those who once navigated its corridors, carrying torches and offerings to honor the pharaoh who ruled over Egypt in the late 13th century BCE. The tomb, designated K-517, is widely regarded as one of the most artistically exquisite and structurally ambitious of all the royal burials. From the entrance, long descending corridors lead to chambers adorned with hieroglyphs and vivid wall paintings depicting funerary rituals, cosmic journeys, and the pharaoh's passage to the afterlife. The colors remain astonishingly vibrant, despite millennia of exposure to occasional moisture, dust, and the rare human intrusion. Scholars marvel at the precision of the carvings and the sophistication of the layouts. Intricate side chambers, hidden niches, and a winding network of passageways that suggest both careful planning and a reverence for secrecy. Yet for all its documented magnificence, the tomb is not without its enigmas. From the earliest excavations, Egyptologists noted anomalies that defy easy explanation. Some chambers appear to have been intentionally blocked, then reopened. Certain inscriptions seem overwritten or altered, perhaps by later priests or tomb restorers. Even the mummy of Seti I, originally discovered within the tomb, was later moved, its final resting place now housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, leaving the original sarcophagus empty, a silent witness to a history of shifting custodianship and secrecy. What motivated these modifications? Were they purely practical, designed to protect the pharaoh's remains from tomb robbers, or did they serve a more symbolic purpose, preserving esoteric knowledge meant only for initiates of the royal cult? The tomb's decoration offers both answers and deeper mysteries. Among the most striking features are the detailed astronomical and funerary texts painted along the walls, known collectively as the Book of Gates and the Book of the Heavenly Cow. They depict the journey of the sun god through the 12 hours of night, a perilous voyage requiring divine guidance and protection. In some scenes, the precision of constellations, stars, and celestial patterns is so meticulous that modern astronomers have tried, and failed, to fully reconcile the images with actual night skies of the period. Could the tomb have functioned as more than a final resting place? Might it also have served as an observatory, a symbolic map of the heavens encoded in stone, offering instructions to navigate both the afterlife and the cosmos? Speculation extends further when considering the tomb's remarkable engineering. The corridors are carved with acute angles, some almost imperceptibly offset, creating visual illusions and unexpected shadows as one moves through the space. Certain chambers are equipped with hidden niches and false doors, architectural tricks that might have been designed to protect the pharaoh from intruders, or perhaps to manipulate perception, guiding initiates along a precise spiritual journey. Could these features have been inspired by mystical or ritual principles lost to time, knowledge that we, despite our modern tools, cannot fully reconstruct? Even the sarcophagus itself presents questions. The ornate stone coffin, carved with texts and symbols, remains a marvel of craftsmanship. Yet its emptiness in situ, combined with evidence of later intrusion and possible looting, has fueled debate over whether Seti I's burial rituals were completed as intended. Were some sacred artifacts removed, hidden, or destroyed? Some fringe theories suggest that the tomb's hidden chambers may contain untouched treasures, sacred writings, or even evidence of technologies that the ancient Egyptians deliberately concealed. Archaeologists have explored many sections, yet the full extent of the tomb may remain beyond reach, its deepest secrets still buried beneath tons of rock. Historical records suggest Seti I was a pharaoh of considerable military prowess, administrative skill, and religious devotion. He restored temples, commissioned grand monuments, and reinforced the priesthood of Amun. But within his tomb, one can sense something more enigmatic, a pharaoh deeply aware of mortality, of the cosmic balance between life and death, order and chaos. Was every corridor, every inscription, every careful brushstroke intended as both protection and instruction, encoding a knowledge that transcended the mortal realm? Visitors today speak of a palpable aura, a stillness in the tomb that feels alive, as if the walls themselves remember the rituals performed millennia ago. Shadows stretch and shift with the angle of light, revealing hidden corners and niches that seem almost to watch the observer. The combination of artistry, symbolism, and architectural sophistication hints at a culture that perceived the afterlife not as a simple destination, but as a multidimensional journey, one whose secrets may have been deliberately obscured, awaiting those capable of discerning them. Standing within KV-17, one is forced to confront the tension between what we know and what we do not. We can catalog the inscriptions, study the astronomical depictions, and trace the pharaoh's historical footprint. Yet, despite modern technology and centuries of scholarship, some aspects of Seti I's tomb remain frustratingly elusive. Was the pharaoh buried with all his treasures? Or were some deliberately hidden? Are there chambers yet undiscovered, containing artifacts or texts that could illuminate aspects of Egyptian belief and science now lost? The tomb of Seti I is a testament to the ambition, artistry, and spiritual complexity of New Kingdom Egypt. It is at once a monument to a single pharaoh and a mirror reflecting broader questions about life, death, and cosmic order. Even as we move through the corridors with flashlights and cameras, recording every hieroglyph and chamber, the tomb retains an air of secrecy. Its walls, painted with divine journeys and celestial maps, seem to whisper across the centuries. Some mysteries are meant to endure, inviting us to imagine, to question, and to wonder what else the ancients may have left for the future, buried deep within the living rock of the Valley of the Kings. Emerging from the shadowed corridors of Seti I's tomb, we now turn our gaze northward to a discovery that challenges our assumptions about the wealth and artistry of Egypt's third intermediate period, the golden mask of Psusennes I. Unlike the blazing treasures of Tutankhamun, long immortalized in popular culture, Psusennes' mask was found in near-perfect preservation within a tomb that had remained largely hidden for millennia. Its discovery in Tanis, amidst a labyrinth of stone chambers beneath the sands of the Delta, revealed an artistry both familiar and quietly perplexing, a gilded visage that radiates regality yet carries with it enigmas that continue to confound archaeologists. The mask, fashioned from electrum, a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver, rests delicately over the mummified face of Psusennes, reflecting both the pharaoh's earthly power and the spiritual ideals of the time. Its features are serene, almost ethereal, framed by a traditional Nimis headdress that shimmers with the interplay of light on precious metals. Inlaid stones, lapis lazuli, carnelian, and turquoise, trace the contours of eyes, eyebrows, and collar, their placement suggesting not mere decoration but symbolic resonance. Each detail appears deliberate, a visual language designed to communicate status, divinity, and protection. Yet the mask presents a paradox. While it evokes the grandeur of Egypt's new kingdom, it originates from a period often considered politically fragmented, when pharaohs wielded limited authority compared to their predecessors. How then did Psusennes' artisans achieve such technical mastery, such precise and harmonious design, in a time of diminished central power? Some scholars suggest that Tanis, strategically located near the Nile Delta, may have accumulated wealth from trade and regional resources, enabling the production of royal treasures rivaling those of earlier dynasties. But even this explanation cannot entirely account for the finesse of the metallurgy, nor the apparent use of materials sourced from distant lands. Beyond craftsmanship, the mask carries subtle mysteries embedded in its design. The choice of electrum, for instance, raises questions about symbolic intent. Gold, eternal and incorruptible, was long associated with divinity and the sun god Ra. Silver, less frequently employed in royal funerary contexts, carries lunar and chthonic associations. By blending the two, did the mask signify a deliberate cosmological message, a fusion of solar and lunar powers guiding the pharaoh through the afterlife? Could the combination reflect esoteric knowledge now lost, an encoded ritualistic principle meant to ensure Psusennes' journey beyond death? Excavation records reveal other peculiarities. Unlike Tutankhamun's tomb, which was deliberately concealed in the Valley of the Kings, Psusennes' resting place seems to have been built with unusual care for camouflage, its chambers largely intact despite centuries of potential plunder. Some archaeologists argue that this suggests a sophisticated understanding of tomb security. Passages, secret doors, and the placement of heavy stones may have been designed not merely to deter grave robbers, but to protect sacred knowledge contained within. Were there objects, inscriptions, or ceremonial tools placed alongside the mask that carried meanings or functions now obscured by time? The mask's aesthetic, too, invites reflection. Its facial features, while idealized, diverge subtly from naturalistic depiction. The proportions are stylized in ways that may encode symbolic or ritual significance, reflecting beliefs about perfection, divine kingship, or spiritual transformation. Certain aspects, such as the curvature of the lips, the positioning of the eyes, or the precise inlays of the headdress, have led some researchers to suggest a hidden mathematical or geometric logic, one that may mirror celestial alignments or correspondences between earthly and cosmic order. Could this mask, then, have been not only a funerary object but a conduit, a talisman bridging mortal and divine realms? Speculative interpretations extend further when examining the context of Tanis itself. The city, often overlooked compared to Thebes, emerges as a hub of ritualistic significance. Psusennes' tomb lies amid a complex of royal burials, temples, and sacred precincts, suggesting a continuity of religious practice that endured even during politically turbulent times. Some fringe theories propose that the treasures within these tombs, including the golden mask, may reflect secret knowledge preserved through generations of priestly elites, knowledge of cosmic cycles, ritual power, or perhaps technologies whose purposes have been lost to history. Could the mask and the tomb as a whole encode principles or wisdom deliberately obscured, awaiting rediscovery by those capable of interpreting its signs? The mask itself has endured millennia of scrutiny, yet still captivates with subtle puzzles. Its preservation raises questions about burial practices, climate effects, and metallurgical techniques. How did the Egyptians maintain such brilliant luster over centuries in a delta tomb prone to humidity? Were there protective rituals, coatings, or unknown chemical methods employed to ensure that the visage of the pharaoh remained untarnished? Even the precise methods of inlay and alloy composition hint at a sophistication that continues to impress modern conservators and metallurgists. Standing before the golden mask, one cannot help but feel the weight of history. The silent presence of a pharaoh, the hands of countless artisans, the sweep of centuries between past and present. It is a relic that embodies both earthly power and cosmic symbolism, a testament to human ingenuity and spiritual ambition. And yet, for all that is known, The materials, the techniques, the artistry, many questions linger. What secrets were lost with the movement of Psusennes' mummy and artifacts? Were there additional items in the tomb that could illuminate unknown aspects of Egyptian ritual or belief? Could the mask itself hold encoded meanings that we have yet to decipher? Messages intended for the eyes of the initiated, now obscured by time and silence? The golden mask of Psusennes invites reflection, awe, and speculation. Its brilliance, form, and context remind us that even in periods considered less monumental, Egypt produced objects of staggering sophistication and mystery. As we examine its contours, inlays, and gleam, we are drawn into a dialogue across millennia, a conversation between the ancient and the modern, between visible artistry and hidden meaning. The mask endures not only as a testament to Psusennes' reign, but as a beacon for the mysteries that remain unsolved, reminding us that the sands of Egypt still hold secrets that science has yet to explain fully. As we shift our focus from the opulent gleam of Psusennes' golden mask, the lens of our investigation turns toward objects far humbler in appearance, yet no less enigmatic. A series of small clay jars discovered within temple complexes and burial sites across ancient Egypt. Known to some as the so-called Baghdad batteries of Egypt, these artifacts, often overlooked in the shadow of gilded tombs, have sparked a quiet but persistent debate among archaeologists, historians, and engineers alike. Each jar is unassuming at first glance, roughly the size of a modern coffee mug, crafted from clay with a thin layer of bitumen lining its interior. Inside, researchers have found a copper cylinder encasing an iron rod, carefully suspended to avoid contact with the vessel's sides. When filled with an acidic solution, vinegar or citrus juice, the assembly produces a small electric current. Yet, here lies the puzzle. There is no direct textual or pictorial evidence in Egyptian records that suggests they understood or intentionally employed electricity. Were these jars practical tools, ceremonial objects, or something altogether different? Found primarily in the Khufu temple complex at Giza, these artifacts were initially catalogued as mundane ritual containers, perhaps used for storing scrolls, ointments, or sacred liquids. Their association with ritual spaces seems logical, given the centrality of ceremonial practice in Egyptian society. Yet the metallic components raise questions. Copper and iron were materials the Egyptians valued, but their combination in a sealed clay vessel is unusual. Could it have been symbolic, a metaphor for the union of sky and earth, life and death, or sun and moon? Or were the jars functional in ways that modern science has only begun to speculate about? Experimental archaeology has attempted to recreate the jar's potential as primitive batteries. When reconstructed faithfully and filled with electrolytes, the devices do produce a low voltage. Could the ancients have harnessed this energy for electroplating, for gilding small objects, or for some ritualistic purpose we cannot yet comprehend? Evidence for such applications remains circumstantial at best, and mainstream scholarship remains cautious, emphasizing that correlation is not causation. The jars may have been elaborate ritual vessels, with the metal components serving as symbolic representations rather than tools of technology. Further intrigue arises when we consider their context within temple architecture. Many jars were discovered near areas where intricate carvings and statues were installed. Is it conceivable that the jar's presence was intended to animate sacred objects, to imbue them with divine energy, or to maintain some unseen ritual function? Ancient Egyptian ritual was inseparable from symbolism, where objects could represent concepts, deities, or cosmological forces. Could the jars be an esoteric form of ceremonial technology, a bridge between the material and spiritual realms? The materials themselves hint at sophistication. The copper and iron, while abundant in certain regions, require smelting and refinement. the bitumen lining demonstrates knowledge of sealing techniques capable of containing liquids for extended periods. Each component reflects a careful, deliberate design. This attention to detail suggests intentionality, yet the ultimate purpose remains ambiguous. Were these jars a form of proto-electrical device, a metaphysical instrument, or merely ritualistic vessels whose function has been obscured by time? Adding to the mystery, some jars appear in groups, sometimes clustered in recessed niches or under stone platforms. The arrangement suggests a pattern, possibly corresponding to ceremonial sequences or symbolic numerology. Could their placement encode ritualistic knowledge, geometric principles, or even instructions for usage lost to history? The absence of written documentation amplifies the uncertainty, leaving only the physical artifacts and their enigmatic surroundings as clues. Speculative theories abound. Some researchers propose that the jars could have been used to generate small currents for electroplating decorative elements onto metals or statues. Others suggest medicinal purposes, perhaps employing mild electric currents in therapeutic rituals, echoing ancient traditions that linked energy, water, and healing. Fringe interpretations venture further, imagining a level of technological understanding far ahead of its time, an Egyptian mastery of electricity that never left textual records. Yet, these remain hypotheses, intriguing but unproven. What is undeniable, however, is the careful craftsmanship and the recurrence of these jars across several sites, implying they were significant in some capacity. Their construction required knowledge of metalwork, chemistry, and sealing techniques, whether for practical or symbolic purposes. The jars straddle a liminal space between science and spirituality, practicality and mysticism. Could it be that their true function was intentionally obscured, known only to select priests or artisans, a secret lost to the sands of time? As we examine each jar, noting the copper cylinder's gleam, the iron rod's precise suspension, and the subtle traces of bitumen that have survived thousands of years, a sense of quiet wonder emerges. These objects remind us that ancient Egypt was a civilization adept at blending the observable with the invisible, the physical with the metaphysical. Perhaps the jars were a form of encoded knowledge, a ritual interface with forces unseen, or a practical device whose full capabilities remain beyond our grasp. And so, standing before these small, enigmatic vessels, we are left with more questions than answers. Were they humble ritual jars, imbued with symbolic meaning alone? Or did they serve as tools, early experiments with energy, representing a lost chapter in humanity's technological story? The jar's mystery endures, whispering through time, challenging our understanding of what ancient Egyptians knew, believed, and attempted. It is a question without a definitive answer, a silent invitation to ponder the ingenuity and hidden knowledge of a civilization that continues to defy explanation. As we leave behind the small yet enigmatic battery jars, our attention turns to figures of a different scale. The serene, seated scribe statues, meticulously carved from stone and placed within tombs and temples across ancient Egypt. At first glance, these statues seem straightforward. Portraits of learned men, quills poised over papyrus, capturing the very essence of literacy in a civilization renowned for its devotion to record-keeping. Yet beneath the surface, a subtle, almost imperceptible enigma lies hidden. Sealed compartments concealed within these statues, secret chambers whose purpose has long puzzled archaeologists and Egyptologists alike. The scribe statues, often life-sized or slightly smaller, are carved with extraordinary precision. From the gentle curve of the shoulders to the careful modeling of the fingers, every detail conveys both reverence and realism. And yet, within some of these statues, examinations using modern imaging techniques, X-rays, CT scans, and infrared have revealed hollow spaces, small cavities that were never meant to be seen by the casual observer. Some of these compartments are accessible only through meticulous excavation. Others remain sealed with plaster or resin, preserved for millennia. What was placed within them, and why? Historical records provide few clues. The seated scribe was a symbol of knowledge, literacy, and administrative authority. Statues served as commemorative or ritual objects, intended to house the K, the spiritual essence of the individual, or to ensure continued remembrance after death. Yet the presence of hidden compartments hints at a more complex purpose. Were these voids intended to contain offerings or relics, secret texts, or perhaps substances meant to empower the statue spiritually? Or could they have been a form of coded communication, holding messages meant only for a select few initiates or priests? Some archaeologists suggest that these compartments were practical, holding small amulets or magical items intended to protect the deceased or convey favor from the gods. Indeed, in ancient Egyptian belief, objects imbued with symbolic or ritual significance could alter spiritual outcomes, safeguard the tomb, or serve as conduits for divine energy. Yet, when some of these sealed cavities were carefully opened in the 20th and 21st centuries, results were inconsistent. While some revealed nothing more than dust and residue, others contained unusual fragments, tiny beads, miniature tools, or traces of organic materials whose origins and functions remain unexplained. What complicates matters further is the precision with which these compartments were constructed. They are not crude voids or afterthoughts. Rather, they are carefully integrated into the stonework, often sealed so thoroughly that centuries of burial could not breach them. In some cases, access appears to have been intentionally obscured, suggesting that the contents, if any, were intended to remain secret. Could these hidden chambers have been repositories for esoteric knowledge, forbidden rituals, or sacred instructions? Or were they symbolic, representing the unseen inner life of the scribe, a space for the K to dwell within the vessel of flesh and stone? Speculative theories abound, though evidence is often circumstantial. Some researchers propose that these statues might have functioned as spiritual safes, designed to store knowledge or sacred substances beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Others point to possible links with Egyptian alchemical or proto-scientific practices, suggesting that some form of experimental or energetic process could have occurred within the statue, though no records confirm such activities. Fringe interpretations even entertain the notion that these hidden chambers could have contained miniature devices or encoded information, remnants of a knowledge system lost entirely to history. Yet, in the absence of written documentation, these remain hypotheses, intriguing but unverified. The placement and distribution of these compartments add another layer of mystery. They are found sporadically, not consistently, across all scribe statues. Some are located near the chest, a symbolic seat of the heart and wisdom. Others are concealed in the base or behind the figure, areas less visible and more difficult to access. Could this variability indicate differing levels of secrecy or ritual purpose? Were some reserved for high-ranking scribes or priests, while others were symbolic placeholders for commoners? Or do these differences reflect regional practices, temporal shifts, or even the whims of individual artisans? The materials used in these compartments also speak to a level of intentionality. Some cavities are lined with organic resins, others with metals or bitumen, designed to preserve contents or create a sealed environment. The engineering precision, ensuring the compartment remains intact over centuries, demonstrates both skill and forethought. It is a reminder that ancient Egyptian artisans were not only masters of aesthetic form, but also of subtle functional design. Could this ingenuity hint at a purpose beyond the ceremonial, something that modern archaeology has yet to fully grasp? When we consider the scribe statues as a whole, With their poised, contemplative expressions and the hidden voids within, we are confronted with a civilization that thrived on both knowledge and mystery. These compartments are silent witnesses, guarding secrets meant to endure far beyond human lifetimes. They challenge our understanding of what the Egyptians valued, how they sought to interact with the divine, and what might have been deliberately hidden from the uninitiated. As we examine the polished stone surfaces, the delicate inlays, and the imperceptible seals that conceal these inner chambers, one cannot help but feel a quiet reverence. We are reminded that ancient Egypt was a world of layered meanings, where the visible and invisible coexisted in harmony, and where even the most familiar objects could harbor enigmas beneath their surfaces. So we are left with questions that defy easy answers. Were these sealed compartments purely symbolic, ritualistic containers, or did they serve a practical purpose now lost to time? What knowledge, materials, or intentions might the Egyptians have hidden within these silent stone figures? The mystery endures, as enduring as the statues themselves, inviting us to wonder what secrets still lie behind their calm, inscrutable faces. As we step back from the quiet mystery of the scribe statues, our attention turns to another, equally enigmatic artifact, the Coffin of Amenemhat, a high-ranking official whose burial offers a glimpse into the complex interplay of life, death, and the written word in ancient Egypt. Unlike the sculpted figures of scribes, Amenemhat's coffin is not merely a vessel for the body. It is a canvas, intricately inscribed with texts that continue to baffle scholars and ignite curiosity. The coffin's surface is polished smooth, adorned with finely painted hieroglyphs in deep ochres, lapis lazuli, and gold leaf that catch the flicker of torchlight, as if the words themselves might shimmer with hidden meaning. At first glance, the inscriptions appear to follow the traditional patterns of funerary texts. Spells from the coffin texts, invocations to the gods, and guidance for the soul's journey through the duat, the underworld. Scholars recognize familiar formulas, words meant to ensure protection, sustenance, and safe passage for the deceased. Yet, as careful examination reveals, some passages are anomalous, phrases that do not appear in other contemporary texts, unusual combinations of hieroglyphs and sequences that defy conventional grammar. It is as though the coffin itself is attempting to communicate something beyond the standard liturgy, a message whose meaning has been lost to time. Amenemhat lived during a period of political consolidation and religious transformation, the Middle Kingdom, when Egypt was reasserting its cultural identity after decades of decentralization. Funerary practices had evolved, blending old rituals with innovations, and artisans were experimenting with text, imagery, and symbolism. Could the unusual inscriptions on Amenemhat's coffin reflect this experimentation? Or do they hint at something more cryptic, secret knowledge, personal revelations, or a coded system meant to be deciphered only by a select few? Some Egyptologists propose that these atypical passages are variations of known spells, personal adaptations crafted to address Amenemhat's unique status or his specific fears and desires for the afterlife. Others suggest a more radical possibility, that the texts contain hidden instructions or knowledge, a record of esoteric rituals or metaphysical concepts that were deliberately obscured from the general populace. Could this coffin, like the sealed compartments of the scribe statues, be a vessel for hidden information, messages intended to transcend death itself? The physical construction of the coffin adds another layer of intrigue. Amenemhat's coffin is carved from a single massive piece of cedar, a material imported from distant lands, rare and expensive. The wood was carefully seasoned, then coated with resin to preserve it for eternity. The inscriptions were meticulously painted, then sealed beneath layers of varnish. Scholars marvel at the precision. No two lines are misaligned, no symbol is superfluous. Could this meticulous attention suggest that the placement and sequence of hieroglyphs were deliberate beyond aesthetic considerations, perhaps encoding meaning in their arrangement or orientation? Some anomalies in the text further challenge conventional understanding. Certain sequences of glyphs appear in repetition, yet carry no known phonetic or semantic value. Others combine symbols in configurations that do not correspond to standard grammar, prompting speculation that the inscriptions may function as a cipher, or perhaps a symbolic representation of concepts rather than literal language. Are these scribes' attempts at linguistic innovation a form of sacred code, or something else entirely? Speculative interpretations have arisen over the years. Fringe theorists have suggested that the texts could contain lost scientific knowledge or references to phenomena not understood in Amenemhat's time. Some even propose that these inscriptions might relate to ancient metaphysical concepts, experiments in consciousness, or methods to manipulate the forces of the afterlife. While these ideas are tantalizing, the evidence remains ambiguous, leaving the true purpose of the texts unresolved. What also fascinates researchers is the spatial logic of the inscriptions. The hieroglyphs are not confined to the sides or the lid, but wrap around every surface, from the headrest to the feet. Some lines curve along the contours of the coffin, while others seem to interact with the carved imagery of deities and protective symbols. Could the arrangement itself be meaningful, intended to guide the soul in a precise pattern through the underworld? Or might it represent a complex visual language designed to be read in a multidimensional sense, rather than strictly linearly as modern scholars interpret text? The coffin's history of discovery adds a final, almost cinematic element to its mystery. When it was unearthed, archaeologists noted faint traces of pigments that modern technology has barely begun to analyze, hinting at colors and details lost to centuries of burial. Residues of substances, resins, oils, and perhaps other materials whose origins are not fully understood, linger within the carvings, suggesting a ritual or protective purpose that science cannot entirely explain. Even today, advanced imaging techniques uncover hidden layers, revealing elements that may have been intended for only the most spiritually attuned observers. As we study Amenemhat's coffin, we are reminded of the delicate interplay between what is known and what remains elusive. Each hieroglyph, each line of text, is both familiar and mysterious, reflecting a civilization that revered knowledge, ritual, and the power of the written word. In this silent wooden vessel, centuries of thought, faith, and intention are encoded, waiting for understanding that may forever elude us. And so, we are left to wonder, are these puzzling texts merely a personal variation of funerary tradition, or do they conceal deeper truths about the beliefs, science, or spiritual practices of ancient Egypt? Could there be a system of knowledge hidden within the symbols, accessible only to those who once understood its keys? As we linger over the painted hieroglyphs, their golden highlights flickering like distant stars, the mystery of Amenemhat's coffin endures, inviting us to question, explore, and imagine what secrets might still lie beneath the surface, patiently waiting to be revealed. Emerging from the haunting enigma of Amenemhat's coffin, we now turn our attention to another relic that has long captivated archaeologists and historians alike. The sarcophagus traditionally associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Hidden deep within a dim, labyrinthine tomb, its presence commands attention before even a single word is spoken. The stone is dark and heavy, carved from a rare granite that seems almost to absorb the faint light of torches and lamps, lending the chamber an atmosphere of solemnity and unease. Hieroglyphs of extraordinary intricacy trace every surface, and in some places, faint traces of pigment cling stubbornly to the grooves, hinting at a time when the sarcophagus once gleamed with gold, lapis, and vivid reds. Even the air around it seems charged, as though history itself has left a residue of mystery. The sarcophagus is notable not just for its craftsmanship, but for the legends that surround it. Within the walls of ancient texts, Osiris is often portrayed as the ultimate symbol of resurrection and divine kingship, yet the coffin associated with his cult in later periods takes on an ominous character. Scholars have documented stories of inexplicable accidents, faint whispers heard near the chamber, and even accounts of sudden illness or misfortune befalling those who disturbed it. While modern researchers are careful to attribute these tales to folklore, coincidence, or psychological influence, the sheer consistency of such reports over centuries remains difficult to dismiss entirely. Physically, the sarcophagus is extraordinary. Its lid fits seamlessly into the base, with no obvious gaps or evidence of tampering, as if the stone itself were intended to remain undisturbed for eternity. The carvings depict Osiris enthroned, flanked by protective deities, with inscriptions detailing funerary rites, prayers, and invocations meant to safeguard the deceased. Yet interwoven with these familiar motifs are glyphs and symbols that seem anomalous, arrangements that do not correspond neatly with the known corpus of Egyptian funerary texts. Some of these sequences appear almost abstract, geometric rather than linguistic, prompting speculation about their purpose. Are these symbols merely decorative, or do they conceal esoteric knowledge, a hidden system of protection, or perhaps even a warning? Historical context provides some clues. This sarcophagus is believed to originate from a transitional period when Egyptian burial customs were evolving, merging older rituals with emerging theological interpretations. Osiris, long central to the concept of life after death, had become increasingly entwined with the pharaoh's identity, and objects associated with his cult were treated with heightened reverence. Could the unusual glyphs and iconography reflect this shift, an attempt to encode new mystical concepts or spiritual safeguards? Or do they point to something more deliberate, a coded system that only initiates of the cult could understand, designed to ensure that the sanctity of the god's resting place remained unviolated? The construction itself is worth noting. The granite, quarried from distant sources, would have required immense labor to transport, carve, and polish. The weight and density of the stone alone make the sarcophagus nearly impossible to move without modern equipment, which may have contributed to the legends of curses surrounding it, an aura of inaccessibility amplified by the human imagination. Certain sections of the inscriptions appear to correspond to precise astronomical alignments or calendrical markers, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. Could these correlations have been intended to empower the sarcophagus ritually, or are they mere coincidence? Some researchers have focused on unusual wear patterns within the interior, noting areas that seem purposefully roughened or marked, unlike other sarcophagi of the period. Were these intended as ritual cues, or could they suggest the presence of concealed compartments or chambers yet to be discovered? Others have pointed to the faint traces of resin, oils, and other substances within the carved grooves, materials that, when analyzed, do not entirely match known embalming or preservation methods. Could these residues represent unknown rituals, lost formulas, or experimental techniques meant to protect or energize the sarcophagus? Speculative theories abound. Certain fringe interpretations suggest that the sarcophagus may have been designed as more than a tomb. It could have been a vessel for energy, a focus for spiritual or alchemical processes, or even a metaphysical interface connecting the physical and spiritual realms. While these ideas cannot be proven, they underscore the tension between what is documented and what remains unknowable, reminding us that the ancients may have imbued their most sacred objects with layers of meaning that modern science cannot fully access. The psychological and cultural impact of the sarcophagus is also compelling. Visitors to the tomb report a palpable sense of weight and stillness, as though the room itself responds to intrusion. Could this be the result of architectural design, deliberate manipulation of space and acoustics, or the accumulated stories of generations shaping perception? Or is it possible that the sarcophagus retains an aura, a silent testimony to the ancient beliefs and rituals that gave it form and power? In examining the sarcophagus of Osiris, we are confronted by a paradox. It is simultaneously a masterpiece of art, a sacred religious object, and a puzzle that resists complete understanding. Every carved symbol, every shadowed corner, challenges our assumptions about the intentions of its creators and the knowledge they possessed. What did the artisans hope to convey? Were the curses and anomalies merely narrative embellishments? Or do they hint at forces and practices beyond the scope of contemporary comprehension? As we stand before the heavy granite form, tracing the worn yet enduring hieroglyphs, we are left with a profound sense of uncertainty. The sarcophagus embodies both protection and mystery, offering a connection to a civilization that revered life, death, and the unknown with equal devotion. Are there secrets within its walls? Rituals, messages, or hidden chambers waiting to be rediscovered? Or does its true power lie in the questions it provokes, challenging our understanding of what the ancients considered sacred, dangerous, or eternal? And so, the cursed sarcophagus of Osiris remains as it has for millennia, silent, impenetrable, and enigmatic. Each shadow, each symbol, each unexplained feature invites reflection, urging us to consider the possibilities that lie just beyond the reach of modern knowledge, and to wonder what still waits in the depths of Egypt's most mysterious tombs. Following the haunting presence of the cursed sarcophagus of Osiris, our exploration takes us deeper into the Valley of the Kings, to a tomb whose discovery has perplexed archaeologists for decades. KV 55. Hidden within a narrow, dimly lit corridor carved into the limestone of the Theban cliffs, this tomb is unremarkable at first glance, just another entryway among many. Yet inside lies a singular enigma, a solitary mummy whose identity has been debated for over a century, entwined with the fate of Egypt's most famous pharaohs. The air is heavy with the scent of antiquity and the faint, almost imperceptible traces of oils and resins that once honored the dead. Dust motes drift through the narrow beam of a flashlight, illuminating fragments of gilded funerary objects, shards of pottery, and the skeleton itself, wrapped in linen that has grown fragile over millennia. The discovery of K555 in 1907 by the Egyptian archaeologist Edward Ayrton opened a chapter of mystery that remains unresolved. The tomb contained a mixture of artifacts from the Amarna period, including a gilded coffin, fragments of funerary equipment, and the body of a male of uncertain age. The combination of objects seemed contradictory. Some suggested a ruler, while others implied a priestly or ritualistic context. Over the years, the mummy has been examined repeatedly, using methods from rudimentary observation to modern DNA and radiological testing, yet definitive answers remain elusive. Scholars have proposed that the remains could be Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh who attempted to transform Egypt's religion, or perhaps Smenkhkare, a shadowy figure known only through inscriptions and brief mentions. Each theory carries its own inconsistencies, leaving the mummy suspended in historical limbo. Visually, the mummy presents an unsettling tableau. The skull is elongated in a manner reminiscent of Amarna artistic styles, though whether this represents a genetic trait, deliberate cranial deformation, or artistic exaggeration is debated. The teeth and bone structure suggest a man in his 20s or 30s, yet some forensic studies imply a slightly older age. The linen wrappings have deteriorated, leaving glimpses of brittle skin and bone that give the figure a stark, almost spectral presence. Artifacts within the tomb, gold foil fragments, jewelry, and a ceremonial mask, are ornate but incomplete, their placement suggesting either hurried burial or later disturbance. Could this indicate a politically motivated reburial, an attempt to erase or obscure the individual's identity while still maintaining ritual propriety? Scientific examinations have added layers of complexity. X-rays, CT scans, and DNA analysis have been applied, producing conflicting interpretations. Some researchers point to genetic markers linking the mummy to Tutankhamun's lineage, which would support the Akhenaten hypothesis. Others argue that discrepancies in cranial morphology, age estimates, and artifact association favor identification as Smenkhkare, whose life remains shrouded in mystery. Complicating matters, the Amarna period itself was a time of upheaval, religious revolution, shifting power dynamics, and the rapid construction of new tombs. Could the anomalous nature of K555 reflect the instability of this period, rather than the peculiarities of the individual interred within it? The tomb itself holds clues as enigmatic as the mummy it contains. KV55 is smaller than most royal tombs, its walls bearing traces of inscriptions removed or altered, and a mixture of burial goods from multiple reigns. Was this deliberate concealment a protective measure or evidence of looting and repurposing? Certain scholars suggest that the tomb may have been intended for someone of high but not unquestioned status, a transitional figure caught between dynasties and religious reforms. Others propose that the tomb's anomalies hint at a hidden narrative, one deliberately obscured to protect secrets that the pharaohs deemed too dangerous or sacred to reveal. Even the funerary artifacts contribute to the mystery. Pieces of gilded cartouches were found, some bearing names later excised. Could these erasures reflect the wrath of subsequent rulers seeking to erase the memory of Akhenaten? Or do they signal confusion regarding the true ownership of the tomb? The alignment and placement of objects seem irregular, unlike the careful organization seen in other royal tombs. Are these signs of ritualistic intent, hurried burial, or later disturbance? Each artifact, each scratch and fissure invites questions that modern archaeology cannot fully answer, reminding us that the past often resists tidy explanations. Speculative theories extend beyond identification. Some fringe interpretations suggest the mummy could have been involved in secretive rituals of the Amarna period, perhaps serving as a conduit between the old gods and the new solar cult, or even representing a symbolic sacrifice to legitimize the heretic pharaoh's religious reforms. Others question whether the tomb itself might conceal additional chambers, undiscovered relics, or clues that could finally resolve the mystery. Yet, despite the best efforts of generations of scientists, the mummy of KV55 continues to guard its secrets, a silent witness to the turmoil, devotion, and complexity of an era that reshaped Egypt forever. The psychological impact of standing before the remains is profound. Even through photographs and scans, the figure seems to exert a presence, an uncanny reminder of mortality and history intertwined. What did this individual witness? What forces of faith, politics, and family shaped his life? And what rituals ensured his passage into the afterlife? Each theory, be it Akhenaten, Smenkhkare, or another contender, raises more questions than answers, highlighting the gaps in our understanding of a civilization that could both revere and erase its rulers with meticulous precision. In considering the mummy in K555, we confront a paradox. It is at once a human being, a royal figure, and an object of enduring mystery. Its identification has implications for understanding the lineage of pharaohs, the nuances of Amarna religion, and the political intrigue that defined the era. Yet for all our technology, for all our scholarship, the identity remains tantalizingly out of reach. Could there still be clues hidden in the linen, the bone, or the artifacts yet to be deciphered? Or has time, and the deliberate erasures of history, left the mummy's story incomplete, destined to provoke curiosity and speculation for generations to come. And so, the mummy in KV55 stands as both a historical puzzle and a silent sentinel. Its gaze, though silent, still palpable, invites us to wonder not only who it was, but what it knew, and what truths of the Amarna period continue to lie just beyond the reach of discovery. Emerging from the shadowed corridors of the Valley of the Kings, where KV55 left us with its unresolved questions, we now find ourselves at a tomb that, though small and unassuming, has stirred profound curiosity among Egyptologists. KV63. Discovered in 2005, this subterranean chamber lies hidden among the limestone cliffs of Thebes, a narrow doorway leading into a cool, almost suffocating silence. Unlike the grandiose tombs of pharaohs and queens, K563 is compact, its low ceilings and simple rectangular layout belying the depth of mystery contained within. Dust hangs in the air, disturbed only by cautious footsteps, and the faint odor of ancient resins still clings to the stone walls. As the light glints off scattered pottery fragments and sealed jars, one cannot help but feel that this space, though overlooked for millennia, guards secrets that defy straightforward explanation. KV63 does not immediately reveal itself as a tomb in the traditional sense. Its discovery came during a survey led by Dr. Otto Schaden, when careful excavation unveiled a chamber containing 7 large, sealed storage jars, each capped with a lid of limestone or wood. Inside were bundles of linen, fragments of ceremonial materials, and traces of organic matter, some still faintly aromatic with the substances used in embalming rituals. Unlike the well-documented royal burials nearby, KV63 contained no intact mummies, no sarcophagi, no gilded treasures. Yet the meticulous placement of items, the careful sealing of jars, and the presence of funerary oils and linens all suggest an intimate connection to the processes of death and preservation. Was this a preparatory cache, a storage chamber, or something far more enigmatic? Mainstream Egyptology posits that KV63 may have served as a storage area for the embalming of Tutankhamun, whose tomb lies nearby. The composition of the jars, resins, natron, and other embalming substances supports this view, aligning with documented practices of the 18th dynasty. The discovery of floral remains, canopic jars without bodies, and linen bundles reinforces the theory that this chamber functioned as a temporary holding place for materials used in royal funerary rites. From a historical perspective, KV63 is a testament to the procedural intricacies of Egyptian mortuary practice, a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the care, ritual, and reverence that accompanied the preparation of a king's body. Yet, K563's simplicity belies the questions it raises. No inscriptions identify the chamber's purpose, no hieroglyphs clarify the intended occupant, and no records from contemporaneous tombs reference such a cache. The absence of a human body leaves a haunting emptiness. Was KV63 meant to be part of Tutankhamun's burial, or does it conceal another figure entirely? Could this chamber have been a secret repository, intentionally left unrecorded to protect the remains or rituals associated with a royal figure whose existence was politically sensitive? The lack of explicit markers in a culture so meticulous about funerary documentation only deepens the enigma. The jars themselves invite speculation. Some are inscribed with faint symbols, partially worn by time, suggesting a ritual function beyond mere storage. Others contain residues whose chemical composition has yet to be fully explained, sparking questions about the sophistication of ancient Egyptian embalming techniques. Could these substances have had ceremonial, protective, or even experimental purposes? Fringe theories have proposed that KV63 might hold connections to forgotten dynasties. secret initiates of the royal cult, or even experimental methods of preserving life beyond death. While mainstream scholarship cautiously considers such ideas, the lack of concrete evidence ensures that these possibilities linger, tantalizingly unresolved. The chamber's architecture is itself a study in subtlety and restraint. Unlike the grand corridors of Cave 62 or the ornate vaults of Seti, Cave 63 is modest and utilitarian, yet its construction is precise, the walls smoothly cut and corners sharply defined. The sealed jars were positioned with care, some arranged in a deliberate order that may reflect ceremonial symbolism now lost to us. Could the layout encode instructions, a ritual sequence, or a map of metaphysical significance, intelligible only to those initiated in the rites of the dead? The very precision suggests intention, a purposeful design whose meaning has been obscured by time. Even the human dimension remains elusive. If KV-63 was linked to Tutankhamun, then it serves as a silent witness to the extraordinary care lavished upon a young pharaoh in death, a stark contrast to the brevity and turbulence of his life. If it relates to another, forgotten individual, then the chamber represents a narrative deliberately erased or overlooked, preserved in silence beneath the Theban cliffs. Either way, KV-63 embodies the tension between what we can know and what the past chooses to conceal. Standing before the chamber today, one is struck by the quiet authority it exerts. The jars, sealed and still, seem to radiate the energy of countless unseen rituals, each linen bundle a fragment of a story never fully told. Is KV-63 merely a functional annex to a nearby tomb? Or does it represent a hidden chapter of Egyptian history, a narrative deliberately buried alongside its physical contents? Could there be undiscovered materials or inscriptions still hidden within the jars, waiting for technology or insight to reveal their secrets? As we contemplate KV-63, the mystery of its purpose, its occupant, and its ritual significance remains unresolved. It challenges our assumptions about what constitutes a tomb, about the boundaries between life and death, and about the sophistication and secrecy of ancient Egyptian mortuary practices. Transitioning from the concealed depths of KV-63, where sealed jars and embalming residues hint at secretive practices lost to time, we now turn our attention to a far more enigmatic object, a small clay jar discovered near the ruins of Kujut Rabu, on the outskirts of modern-day Baghdad, yet often tied to ancient Egyptian technological speculation. Often referred to as the Baghdad Battery, these artifacts, comprising a ceramic vessel, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, have captivated researchers and laypeople alike, sparking debate over their purpose and raising questions that stretch beyond conventional archaeology. Could these simple components represent the earliest known experiment in electricity, or are we imposing modern interpretations on an object whose purpose is far more mundane, ritualistic, or symbolic? The jars themselves are unassuming at first glance. A clay body, roughly the size of a modern coffee cup, holds a cylindrical copper tube within which rests a carefully shaped iron rod. When discovered, the copper and iron showed signs of corrosion, suggesting prolonged exposure to a liquid, though which liquid remains speculative. Some experiments have shown that when filled with an acidic solution such as vinegar or citrus juice, the combination generates a small electrical current, enough perhaps to electroplate objects or produce a low-voltage spark. The concept is startling. Could ancient craftsmen have had an empirical understanding of chemical electricity long before the modern battery was formally conceived in the 18th century? Mainstream scholarship tends toward caution. Many archaeologists assert that the artifacts are more likely containers for scrolls, sacred papyri, or ritual ointments. The corrosion of the metals could be incidental, the acid present in stored substances rather than intentionally applied for electrical experiments. Yet the design, carefully constructed copper cylinders insulated by bitumen, iron rods suspended within, is meticulous. The juxtaposition of materials, coupled with the fact that similar artifacts have been found across multiple sites, invites inquiry into their potential function beyond storage. The meticulous engineering cannot be dismissed lightly. Speculation grows when we consider the implications. If these jars were intended as functional batteries, what purpose could they have served in ancient Egyptian or Mesopotamian societies? One popular hypothesis suggests that the current may have been used for electroplating precious metals onto jewelry or ritual objects, creating surfaces of gold or silver where resources were scarce. Another posits a more mystical application. Could small electrical currents have been harnessed in temple rituals, perhaps to create shocks or sparks during ceremonies, perceived as manifestations of divine power? Ancient texts often describe priests wielding instruments imbued with sacred energy, but the line between myth and practical technology is obscured. The mystery deepens when we examine the context of discovery. Many battery jars were found near temples, tombs, or storage pits, sometimes alongside religious paraphernalia or everyday utensils. This intermingling raises further questions. Were these tools part of practical experimentation, religious practice, or symbolic representation? Could they have been prototypes, early attempts at harnessing natural phenomena, or objects of theoretical curiosity with no practical use at all? The lack of contemporary documentation, no texts describe electrical principles or provide instructions for their use, leaves us reliant on conjecture. Chemical analysis of residues in the jars has revealed traces of organic acids, salts, and mineral compounds. Could these have been selected intentionally to produce an electrochemical reaction, or are we observing coincidental effects of stored substances? Some fringe theories even suggest that these artifacts indicate lost technological knowledge, a chapter of human ingenuity deliberately erased by time, catastrophes, or shifts in cultural priorities. While such notions are speculative, the physical evidence itself, a combination of metals, insulators, and containers carefully arranged, demands acknowledgement as a deliberate design. Modern experimentation provides tantalizing but inconclusive results. Researchers have replicated the jar's configuration, creating small, low-voltage batteries capable of electroplating thin layers of gold onto conductive surfaces. The process is slow, fragile, and limited in output, yet it demonstrates the theoretical possibility that ancient artisans could have stumbled upon similar results. The question remains: if they were aware of such potential, why is there no corroborating evidence in art, inscriptions, or surviving technologies? And if they were not, how can we explain the precision and repeated occurrence of such artifacts? The very notion challenges our assumptions about technological timelines. Electricity, as we conventionally understand it, is a product of modern science. But could experimentation with chemical reactions and electrical phenomena have occurred in isolated pockets, forgotten as centuries passed? Were these jars practical tools, sacred instruments, or something that defies easy categorization? The ambiguity is compelling, leaving us suspended between possibility and skepticism. As we stand before the idea of the ancient battery, the allure is not merely in its potential function, but in its capacity to expand our perception of history. It forces us to question what we take for granted about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations, and how much might have been lost, deliberately or otherwise, to the passage of time. Could other artifacts, still buried beneath sands or hidden in forgotten chambers, reveal further insights into methods and knowledge once thought impossible? In the end, the Baghdad battery and its potential Egyptian counterparts resist closure. We are left to contemplate an object that may have been a practical tool, a ceremonial vessel, or a curious experiment bridging the natural and spiritual worlds. The jars, corroded yet intact, continue to whisper possibilities across millennia. Their mystery endures, reminding us that the story of human ingenuity is far from fully told, and that even the simplest objects can hold secrets that challenge our understanding of the past. As we leave behind the enigmatic jars that hint at lost knowledge, we turn now to a structure of monumental ambition, carved into the cliffs of Deir el-Bahari along the west bank of the Nile. The temple of millions of years of Hatshepsut rises in stark contrast to its arid surroundings, a cascade of terraces cut directly into the limestone cliffs, connected by broad ramps that seem to float above the desert floor. From afar, it appears almost as a mirage, its pale stone shimmering in the sunlight, a testament to the ingenuity and vision of a woman who defied convention in one of history's most rigidly patriarchal societies. The temple was constructed during the 18th dynasty, commissioned by Hatshepsut, the formidable female pharaoh who ruled with a blend of political acumen and religious devotion. Its terraces, colonnades, and chapels honor the gods, commemorate Hatshepsut's reign, and celebrate her divine birth. Historians and archaeologists recognize the temple as a pinnacle of ancient Egyptian architecture, yet even the most careful study cannot erase the air of mystery that surrounds it. There is a deliberate symmetry to its design, a harmony of form and space that invites contemplation. But some aspects seem almost deliberately obscure, as if guarding secrets meant only for the initiated. Approaching the temple, one cannot help but notice the precision of the stonework. Massive blocks, each weighing several tons, are fitted together with near-perfect alignment, leaving no room for mortar. The terraces themselves appear to float, yet the engineering is flawless, with drainage channels and subtle inclines that have allowed the temple to survive thousands of years of erosion and seismic activity. How did ancient builders achieve such mastery without modern tools? And why choose this cliffside location, isolated yet commanding, over the more accessible plains below? The answers lie partly in ritual significance, but some questions remain, defying easy explanation. Inside, the temple's corridors reveal scenes carved in relief that depict Hatshepsut's divine lineage, trading expeditions to the mysterious land of Punt, and offerings to deities. The reliefs are rich with detail, exotic animals, incense, myrrh trees, and foreign goods rendered with astonishing fidelity. Yet some depictions are puzzling. Certain symbols and hieroglyphs remain difficult to interpret fully, their meanings debated among scholars. Were these strictly ceremonial, or do they encode knowledge of astronomy, navigation, or lost technologies? The precision and repetition of certain motifs suggest intentionality beyond decoration, a visual language whose full grammar may be lost to us. Even more intriguing are the underground chambers and sanctuaries, partially hidden beneath the terraces. Archaeologists have uncovered chapels dedicated to Hathor and Anubis, as well as storage rooms and possibly burial chambers, though Hatshepsut herself was interred elsewhere. Some researchers suggest these subterranean spaces may have held ritual objects, sacred texts, or tools of ceremonial magic. The exact purpose remains elusive. Could these spaces have been designed to harness natural energies, sound, or light in ways that enhanced spiritual experiences? Or were they simply repositories for cultic treasures? The temple's architecture, with its interplay of shadow and illumination, invites speculation about intentional manipulations of perception. Hatshepsut's temple also raises questions about her reign itself. After her death, many of her monuments were defaced, her name systematically erased from records, yet the temple endured. Scholars debate the motivations behind this erasure, political, religious, or symbolic. What secrets might have been deliberately preserved within the temple while others were lost to deliberate destruction? Could the architecture itself serve as a silent archive, encoding memories of a ruler whose legacy was simultaneously celebrated and suppressed? Beyond the physical structure, the temple's alignment with the landscape has prompted further speculation. Some studies suggest it may have astronomical significance, oriented toward certain solar or celestial events, though interpretations vary. Was this alignment purely symbolic, designed to honor the gods, or did it serve a practical or observational function, perhaps linked to calendrical systems or sacred rites? The possibilities remain tantalizingly open. Yet for all its grandeur and artistry, the temple still speaks in whispers rather than declarations. Visitors often remark on a subtle atmosphere of stillness, a sense that the space was designed not merely for human activity, but for something deeper, ritualized, transcendent, perhaps even intentionally enigmatic. How much of Hatshepsut's intent is encoded in the angles of the ramps, the spacing of the columns, the hidden chambers beneath the terraces? We may never know. The Temple of Millions of Years stands as both a triumph and a riddle. It is a monument to power, to devotion, and to the enduring human desire to reach beyond the ordinary, to touch the divine. Its walls, terraces, and hidden recesses invite us to wonder, what knowledge, what ceremonies, what practices might have taken place within these spaces that we can no longer fully reconstruct? Could there be undiscovered texts, objects, or chambers waiting to reveal more about Hatshepsut's reign, or about the broader mysteries of ancient Egyptian spirituality and science? In contemplating this extraordinary structure, one is reminded that even the most thoroughly studied monuments of antiquity can hold secrets that evade modern understanding. The Temple of Millions of Years is more than stone and relief. It is a testament to the complexity, ambition, and perhaps even the mystery of human endeavor. Standing before it, we are left with a quiet, lingering question. What stories, what knowledge, what hidden truths are still encoded within its terraces and sanctuaries, waiting for the right observer to uncover them? Leaving behind the terraces and shadows of Hatshepsut's temple, we journey now to another realm of ancient Egyptian wonder, hidden beneath the sands and stone of Saqqara. Here lies the Serapeum, a subterranean labyrinth carved deep into the desert, where silence reigns and the air is heavy with the weight of centuries. The entrance itself is unassuming, a simple doorway leading into darkness, yet it opens into a world of colossal galleries and tombs that seem almost otherworldly in scale and purpose. The Serapeum is famed as the burial place of the Apis bulls, sacred animals revered as living incarnations of the god Ptah. Each bull was honored in life and death, and upon its demise, interred in enormous granite sarcophagi within the serpentine tunnels that stretch far beneath the earth. These sarcophagi, some weighing dozens of tons, were carefully fitted into the galleries with such precision that even modern engineers marvel at the logistics and ingenuity required. How were these massive stones quarried, transported, and lowered into place with no evidence of ramps or pulleys capable of supporting such weight? The practical questions are astounding, but perhaps even more intriguing are the mysteries that linger beyond the physical achievements. The sheer scale of the Serapeum suggests a ritualistic or symbolic purpose beyond the burial of sacred animals. The tunnels themselves stretch hundreds of meters, lined with chambers, niches, and pathways that seem designed to impress, awe, and perhaps even disorient. Why build such a complex underground network for the interment of bulls, however sacred? Some scholars propose that the tunnels were intended as symbolic journeys, guiding the spirit of the bull through a ritualized underworld, echoing the broader Egyptian mythology of death, rebirth, and the cosmic balance. Yet others have noted anomalies in the design, chambers whose purpose remains unclear, inscriptions that are cryptic or incomplete, and architectural features that defy conventional explanations. The API's bulls themselves were extraordinary symbols of continuity and divinity, but the stories surrounding their burials have inspired questions that continue to perplex historians. Some sarcophagi bear inscriptions hinting at ceremonies that were not merely funerary but esoteric, possibly linked to celestial cycles or secretive priestly knowledge. Could the placement of each burial have corresponded with astronomical alignments, ritual timing, or sacred numerology now lost to us? The evidence is tantalizing but incomplete, leaving us to wonder whether these decisions were purely ceremonial or if there was an underlying system of knowledge encoded into the very stone of the galleries. Even more mysterious are the accounts of unusual artifacts found within the Serapeum. Beyond funerary offerings and ritual implements, explorers and archaeologists have occasionally reported objects whose purposes remain ambiguous, some carved with symbols that do not clearly match known hieroglyphic traditions. Were these objects part of ritualistic practices we do not yet understand? Could they have been tools for ceremonial magic, or instruments designed to interact with forces that ancient Egyptians perceived but modern science cannot easily measure? The line between sacred artifact and technological enigma becomes blurred, raising questions that modern archaeology is only beginning to explore. The Serapeum's isolation, beneath the barren desert and removed from the bustling cities of Memphis and later periods of Egyptian civilization, adds another layer to the mystery. How much of what was preserved underground reflects continuity of tradition, and how much might encode knowledge deliberately hidden from the public eye? Some theories suggest that the Serapeum's hidden chambers were repositories not only for sacred bulls, but for priestly secrets, knowledge of celestial mechanics, herbal remedies, or metaphysical teachings. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the tension between what is visible and tangible and what might have been intentionally concealed. Adding to the enigma are the inscriptions that line some walls of the galleries. Though many are clearly dedicatory or funerary in nature, others contain symbols and texts that are fragmentary, partially destroyed, or difficult to interpret. They hint at rituals and practices that may never be fully reconstructed, and their meaning has prompted intense scholarly debate. Were these the remnants of lost theological doctrines, encoded historical records, or even warnings meant to protect the sacred space? Moreover, the Serapeum invites reflection on the relationship between human ambition, religious devotion, and the unknown. Carving vast tunnels into solid rock, transporting enormous stones, and dedicating decades to such undertakings speaks to a civilization deeply invested in the spiritual and symbolic life of its sacred animals. Yet the precision, scale, and occasional anomalies hint at something more, a dialogue between the mortal and the divine, a conversation with forces and knowledge that may now be lost. Standing at the entrance to the Serapeum today, the silence is almost tangible. Descending into the galleries, one senses the weight of time and the accumulated reverence of countless generations. The air is cool and still, the shadows deep and impenetrable, and the enormity of the undertaking imposes both awe and mystery. What did the ancient Egyptians intend for those who entered these tunnels? Were they meant to witness something sacred, or simply to protect it from profane eyes? And what might still lie hidden within the labyrinthine chambers, waiting for discovery by those with the patience and insight to see it? The Serapeum, in all its subterranean grandeur, stands as a testament to human devotion, ambition, and perhaps a desire to reach beyond the known. Its tunnels, chambers, and massive sarcophagi remain partially unexplored and only partially understood, leaving room for wonder. As we peer into its shadows, we are reminded that even the most studied and monumental sites of antiquity can retain secrets beyond the grasp of modern inquiry. The question lingers: what knowledge, what rituals, and what mysteries are still buried deep beneath the sands, and how much of them will remain forever beyond our reach? As we emerge from the shadowed tunnels of the Serapeum, our gaze stretches southward, across the shifting sands and rugged landscapes of Nubia. Here, in the ancient lands that once bridged Egypt and sub-Saharan Africa, stand 12 pyramids, smaller, steeper, and often overlooked by mainstream narratives of Egyptian grandeur. Clustered in the sands around sites like Nuri and Meroe, these structures appear modest at first glance, yet their presence hints at a story that intertwines with the mysteries of Egypt's most famous monuments, and perhaps with questions that remain unresolved even today. Unlike their towering cousins on the Nile's northern banks, the Nubian pyramids were built by the Kushite kings and queens, rulers of a kingdom that flourished across centuries in the shadows of pharaonic Egypt. Their form is distinctive, sharply angled, compact, and precise. From afar, they almost resemble arrowheads piercing the horizon. Yet, their alignment, purpose, and the wealth of artifacts buried within and around them have sparked debates that ripple far beyond the field of archaeology. Each pyramid served as a royal tomb, echoing the Egyptian belief in the afterlife and the sanctity of kingship. Yet subtle differences invite scrutiny. The interiors are often smaller and less elaborate than the grand chambers of Giza or Saqqara, yet some contained unexpected treasures, gold ornaments, ritual objects, and inscriptions that seem to blend Egyptian and Kushite traditions. How did the builders acquire such skill and resources? Did they simply emulate Egyptian models? Or was there a deeper, symbolic connection, a shared knowledge of geometry, astronomy, or ritual practice that spanned borders? One of the most compelling enigmas is their precise alignment. Scholars have noted that the Nubian pyramids were often oriented to the cardinal points, but the angles, spacing, and groupings occasionally suggest patterns that defy simple explanation. Could these arrangements reflect astronomical observations, perhaps related to the stars, the sun, or the cycles of the moon? Or do they hint at a lost system of sacred mathematics, one that guided the construction of pyramids both north and south along the Nile? The idea is tantalizing, though impossible to confirm fully, leaving us with questions as ancient as the structures themselves. The artifacts and inscriptions provide further intrigue. Some stelae and reliefs depict Kushite royalty in Egyptian-style regalia, yet accompanied by symbols unique to Nubia, an enigmatic fusion of two civilizations. What do these hybrid symbols signify? Were they a simple assertion of political legitimacy, or do they encode beliefs and rituals that modern scholars have yet to decipher? The pyramids, in their silent stoicism, seem to guard not only the remains of kings and queens, but also fragments of knowledge that may have been deliberately preserved or concealed. There is also the question of the broader landscape. The 12 pyramids of Nubia are not isolated. They form part of an extensive necropolis spanning kilometers of desert terrain. The spatial relationships between them, their proximity to temples, and their orientation relative to the Nile suggest a level of planning that implies both ritual and practical sophistication. Could there have been an overarching design connecting these monuments to the Great Pyramids of Egypt? A network of sacred architecture stretching along the Nile's lifeline? Some fringe theories suggest a hidden map of knowledge or power encoded in their placement, though evidence remains tantalizingly elusive. Excavations have also revealed traces of burial goods that appear unusual for the region, including imported materials, rare minerals, and objects whose origins remain uncertain. Were these items traded from afar, or were they symbolic offerings meant to confer power in the afterlife? The presence of such artifacts suggests a network of cultural and economic exchange far more complex than once assumed, yet also invites speculation. Did the Kushites possess knowledge, spiritual or technological, that has since vanished? Moreover, the history of the pyramids themselves is marked by periods of mystery. Many were looted in antiquity, others succumbed to erosion and sandstorms. Yet despite the passage of millennia, the structures remain remarkably intact, as if resistant not only to the elements but also to the erosion of memory. What did the builders intend for future generations? Were these monuments meant to inspire awe, to protect sacred knowledge, or simply to honor the dead? The 12 pyramids of Nubia compel us to reconsider the narrative of ancient Egypt as an isolated phenomenon. They suggest a broader, interconnected world where culture, religion, and perhaps esoteric knowledge traveled along the Nile, bridging kingdoms and deserts alike. Their mysteries are compounded by the paucity of contemporary records. Much of what is known comes from archaeological interpretation rather than textual certainty. And here lies the allure. Each artifact, each burial chamber, each shadowed corridor raises as many questions as it answers. Standing before the desert pyramid fields today, the wind brushing against the worn stone, one is struck by a sense of continuity and enigma. The sharp silhouettes against the sky, the deliberate geometry, and the whispers of past civilizations create a space where history and mystery intersect. Are these pyramids merely the tombs of long-dead rulers, or do they represent a fragment of knowledge, ritual, or even technology that has eluded us for thousands of years? As we step back to view the 12 pyramids together, their alignment and symmetry suggest intention, purpose, and perhaps an unspoken story that has yet to be read. How much of this knowledge is lost forever to the desert sands, and how much awaits discovery by those willing to look beyond the familiar narratives of kings and dynasties? The connection between Nubia and Egypt is clear, yet the full meaning of these 12 silent monuments remains elusive, inviting us to ponder what secrets the sands may still conceal. As we move from the sun-scorched sands of Nubia and the silent monuments of Kush, our journey returns to the heart of the Valley of the Kings, to a narrow, shadowed corridor carved into the limestone cliffs of Thebes. Here lies the tomb of Tutankhamun, the boy king whose brief reign has echoed through history not only for its grandeur, but for the secrets it may yet conceal. Beyond the gilded treasures, the painted walls, and the familiar chambers catalogued over decades of excavation, whispers of a hidden space have captivated archaeologists and Egyptologists alike. A concealed chamber that may lie just beyond the tomb's western wall. The story begins with the careful surveys of Tutankhamun's tomb in the early 21st century, when modern technologies, ground-penetrating radar and microgravity scanning, detected anomalies behind the tomb's innermost walls. These readings suggested voids, chambers as yet unexplored, lying in silence for over 3,000 years. The possibility of a hidden room, perhaps untouched since antiquity, sparked both excitement and caution. Could these signals reveal a continuation of Tutankhamun's burial complex, or perhaps the tomb of someone even more significant? The tomb itself, with its corridors decorated in vivid depictions of the king's journey into the afterlife, hints at connections beyond what meets the eye. Egyptian tombs were carefully designed to protect the deceased and their passage into eternity, with multiple layers of security, secret chambers, and ritual significance embedded into every stone. Yet, Tutankhamun's tomb, unusually small for a king, raises questions. Was the tomb hastily prepared, its walls erected quickly in response to political necessity, or does it conceal secrets that only the boy king's successors would have known? Some Egyptologists have proposed that these hidden chambers could belong to Queen Nefertiti, whose mysterious disappearance from historical records has long puzzled scholars. Could she have been intended to rest alongside Tutankhamun, her final resting place sealed away and hidden from the world? The idea is tantalizing, especially given Nefertiti's prominent role during the Amarna period and her close connection to Tutankhamun's lineage. Yet other theories suggest the chambers could contain sacred ritual spaces, storerooms for funerary goods, or even symbolic voids, designed to reflect beliefs about the afterlife rather than serve as practical tombs. ground-penetrating radar reveals lines of symmetry, angles that echo the layout of Tutankhamun's known chambers, yet the interpretations remain debated. Are these readings definitive evidence of a room, or merely natural fissures and structural anomalies within the bedrock? Some researchers remain skeptical, while others are driven by the possibility that modern technology might finally illuminate secrets long concealed by centuries of sand and stone. Artifacts found in Tutankhamun's tomb offer subtle hints of connections to other royal figures. Items bearing the insignia of Ay, the pharaoh who succeeded Tutankhamun, suggest that the tomb may have been intended for multiple occupants, or that later rulers had knowledge of spaces left intentionally concealed. Was the tomb designed to be more than a resting place for the boy king, a secret archive of the royal family, or even a cryptic message encoded in its walls? The Egyptian burial tradition often included false doors, secret corridors, and chambers meant to protect the dead from looters. Tutankhamun's tomb, discovered largely intact, may be an exception, or it may be part of a more complex structure whose entrances and passages were deliberately obscured. The hidden wall behind which the chamber is thought to lie becomes not merely a structural curiosity, but a symbol of the ancient Egyptians' mastery of both architecture and psychological strategy. To seal knowledge away, to conceal treasure or the resting place of a queen, was to assert control over history itself. Speculative theories abound, from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some suggest that a hidden burial of Nefertiti or another Amarna royal could dramatically reshape our understanding of the period. Others propose that these spaces might contain ritual or sacred relics, objects imbued with meaning we may never fully grasp. Even fringe hypotheses suggest links to forgotten technologies, secret chambers designed with celestial alignments, or encoded maps of the valley itself. Each idea, whether mainstream or speculative, emphasizes the tomb's potential as a living mystery, one that resists definitive answers despite decades of meticulous study. Stepping through the quiet corridors of Tutankhamun's tomb, the eye traces hieroglyphs that speak of gods, afterlife, and eternal protection. Yet behind the western wall, nothing is visible to the naked eye. Only the faint whispers of possibility remain. A chamber sealed for millennia, untouched and holding secrets lost to time. What lies within? Sacred artifacts, the remains of a forgotten ruler, or perhaps only an empty space, symbolic in nature, reflecting ideas about life, death, and eternity. The allure of the hidden chamber is its unresolved nature. Despite our knowledge of Tutankhamun, despite centuries of excavation and study, there remains the potential for discovery, for revelation, for a moment when modern science may meet ancient ingenuity. Until that time, the mystery persists, a reminder that the past, even when illuminated by torches and technology, still holds shadows. As we stand before the Western Wall, imagining what might lie beyond, one is struck by the fragility of certainty. Tutankhamun's tomb, once thought fully understood, may still guard secrets that could reshape our understanding of ancient Egypt's most enigmatic period. And so the question endures. What has remained hidden behind that stone for over 3,000 years? And will we ever truly uncover the final story encoded within the boy king's eternal resting place? From the shadowed banks of the Nile, where the river's slow current whispers against the desert sands, rises a structure of quiet mystery. The Pyramid of Lahun, attributed to Pharaoh Senusret, II of Egypt's 12th dynasty. Unlike the colossal pyramids of Giza, Lahun is modest in scale, yet its secrets have intrigued scholars for generations. Its smooth, tapering limestone sides and precise geometry hint at mastery over stone and space, but it is the hidden passages within that have captured the imagination of archaeologists and the curious alike. The entrance itself is unassuming, tucked into the eastern face of the pyramid, leading down into a subterranean world carefully carved beneath the desert floor. From the moment one descends into its cool, shadowed corridors, the air seems to thrum with the whispers of centuries, as if the stones themselves are keeping silent watch over the secrets they contain. Initial excavations revealed a central burial chamber, walls lined with mud brick and limestone, and the remains of Senusret II. Yet almost immediately, subtle anomalies suggested there was more lurking in the darkness, passages and voids not fully accounted for in early surveys. Archaeologists have noted unusual architectural features: narrow tunnels that branch off from the main corridor, dead-end chambers that seem almost deliberate in their placement, and walls that, upon close inspection, hint at concealed entryways. Could these spaces have been intended as protective decoys, meant to mislead grave robbers? Ancient Egyptian tombs were notoriously targeted by looters, and builders often created labyrinthine corridors to confound intruders. Yet there are aspects of Laocoon that resist simple explanations. Some passages appear to lead nowhere, yet measurements suggest alignments with celestial events, solstices, lunar cycles, or star patterns of profound symbolic importance. The notion of hidden or lost spaces within the pyramid has also given rise to intriguing hypotheses. Could there be a secondary burial chamber yet undiscovered? A cache of treasures, a repository of sacred texts, or even ritual spaces designed to honor deities beyond the reach of human eyes? Mainstream archaeology remains cautious. While ground-penetrating radar has hinted at anomalies, the data is complex, difficult to interpret, and at times contradictory. What appears as a hidden corridor in one scan can vanish in another, leaving experts divided between optimism and restraint. Some fringe theories have gained traction in recent decades. Proponents suggest that the Pyramid of Laocoon, unlike other pyramids of its era, may have served dual purposes, both as a tomb and as a repository of esoteric knowledge, its hidden passages functioning as conduits for energy or as secret chambers for initiates of an elite priesthood. Skeptics argue that such interpretations impose modern ideas onto ancient architecture, yet the very existence of deliberately concealed corridors cannot be denied. The evidence is in the subtle asymmetries, the unexpected turns, and the small niches whose purposes remain uncertain. Artifacts recovered within the pyramid itself add layers to the mystery. Pottery shards, ritual objects, and traces of organic matter suggest activity beyond a simple burial. Could workers or priests have used these secret passages for ceremonial purposes, entering the pyramid in ways designed to remain invisible to outsiders? And what of the alignment of the pyramid's interior with the Nile and nearby temples? Such precision implies intention, a deeper plan woven into the fabric of stone, sand, and celestial observation. Historical texts offer tantalizing hints, but few concrete answers. Administrative papyri found near Laocoon, detailing the lives of workers and the organization of the pyramid town, describe construction, supplies, and labor, but they speak little of secret chambers or hidden corridors. Yet, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The ancients were masters of discretion, often encoding knowledge in ways that only those initiated into sacred practices could understand. Could Laocoon's hidden passages be a silent testament to wisdom deliberately veiled, a puzzle designed to endure for millennia? The notion of discovery in such a site is slow, painstaking, and fraught with uncertainty. Every step within the pyramid's corridors must consider both preservation and interpretation. Modern technology, scanners, tomography, and drone mapping provides new glimpses into the voids and spaces unseen by early explorers. Still, each revelation raises further questions. Are these voids functional, symbolic, or remnants of incomplete construction? Do they connect to other structures nearby? part of a greater network of subterranean pathways, or are they isolated anomalies, mysterious by design or accident? Standing within the narrow corridors of Lahun, one cannot help but sense the weight of intentionality in the architecture, the careful attention to angles, alignments, and hidden spaces. The pyramid, modest yet enigmatic, becomes more than a monument to a pharaoh. It is a testament to the ancient Egyptian preoccupation with secrecy, eternity, and the unknown. Its hidden passages provoke reflection on the limits of our understanding and the ingenuity of those who built them. Even after decades of study, Lahun continues to guard its secrets. The pyramidal form, so familiar to the modern eye, masks complexity beneath the surface. The hidden corridors, with their faint traces and subtle deviations, remain largely unexplored, inviting both scientific inquiry and the imagination. What lies beyond the visible walls, just out of reach in the shadowed spaces the ancients meticulously concealed? Could the pyramid still hold chambers untouched by human hands, objects of ritual, or knowledge long lost to time? The Pyramid of Lahun, with its quiet elegance and concealed labyrinth, reminds us that the ancient world is never fully revealed. Each stone, corridor, and anomaly poses questions that resist easy answers. As we peer into its hidden passages, we are left with the profound awareness that some mysteries endure not in spite of our curiosity, but because of it. And so, the silent pyramid stands, a sentinel of the past, inviting us to wonder what still remains hidden beneath its ancient stones. From the quiet, sun-scorched delta of the Nile emerges a city of whispers and half-remembered glory, Tanis. Unlike the towering pyramids of Giza or the vast temples of Luxor, Tanis lies hidden amidst marshy sands and subtle undulations of the modern landscape, a relic of a world that once thrived in the northeastern reaches of ancient Egypt. Today, much of its former grandeur is concealed beneath layers of sediment and history, yet even the fragments that remain hint at a city of remarkable significance, where power, religion, and the mysterious converge. The ruins themselves evoke a sense of deliberate secrecy. Columns toppled by time, doorways leading to nowhere, and the crumbled remnants of monumental structures suggest a city built with grandeur, yet somehow lost to memory and modern cartography. Archaeologists first turned their attention to Tanis in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, unearthing royal tombs of the 21st and 22nd dynasties, treasures rivaling those found in Tutankhamun's tomb, and inscriptions that whisper of forgotten kings. Yet, for all the discoveries, there is an ineffable quality to Tanis, a sense that much remains obscured, waiting beneath sands that have shifted across millennia. The city's history is as fascinating as it is enigmatic. Established as a political and religious center, Tanis became a focal point for Egypt's northern territories, rivaling even Thebes in importance during certain periods. Pharaohs such as Psusennes I and Shoshenq I chose Tanis as a burial ground, leaving behind sarcophagi and treasures whose craftsmanship rivals the best of the New Kingdom. Yet, unlike other sites, Tanis seems deliberately shielded from prying eyes. Its location, in what was once a network of navigable waterways and marshes, may have offered natural concealment, raising questions about whether the city's placement was strategic beyond the purely administrative. Within Tanis, the tombs themselves tell an intriguing story. In 1940, archaeologist Pierre Montet uncovered intact burial chambers filled with gold, jewelry, and finely carved statues, remnants of a wealth thought lost to history. But the very preservation of these treasures raises questions. How did such riches remain hidden when other tombs were looted long ago? Could the city's marshy surroundings and shifting sands have acted as a natural deterrent, a protective cloak against intruders? Or was there something more deliberate at play, an ancient understanding of concealment that allowed Tanis to guard its secrets for thousands of years? The city also presents architectural puzzles. Some temples and palaces exhibit alignments and measurements that appear almost otherworldly, as though designed to resonate with celestial or terrestrial phenomena beyond simple ritual requirements. Columns and walls in some areas seem to conceal hidden chambers, or at least suggest the potential for spaces yet unexplored. Archaeologists debate whether these are symbolic features, structural necessities, or hints of something deliberately hidden. And then there are reports, scattered but persistent, of passages and vaults hinted at in inscriptions, but never physically confirmed. Cryptic annotations that provoke questions about what might still lie beneath the sands. The artifacts recovered from Tanis add further layers to the mystery. Golden masks, statuary, and ritual objects suggest a city of immense wealth and devotion. But among these finds are more curious items. Objects whose iconography seems atypical for their time, inscriptions whose meaning remains debated, and materials sourced from distant lands, hinting at trade networks and cultural exchanges that modern scholarship has only partially traced. Could Tanis have been a hub of esoteric knowledge, a repository of religious or scientific understanding long forgotten? Mainstream interpretations remain cautious, yet the anomalies persist, teasing the imagination and challenging conventional narratives. Fringe theories have naturally emerged, though they remain speculative. Some suggest that Tanis, like other ancient Egyptian sites, may conceal chambers containing lost records, sacred artifacts, or evidence of knowledge that could reshape our understanding of history. Others propose that the city was designed to be deliberately enigmatic, a deliberate layering of visibility and concealment to protect sacred spaces from desecration. The lack of comprehensive excavation and the shifting topography of the Nile Delta mean that these theories, while unproven, cannot be fully dismissed. Every scan, every dig raises the possibility that more remains hidden than revealed. One of the most compelling aspects of Tanis is its relationship to the landscape. Submerged channels, sedimentary mounds, and the interplay of water and sand suggest a city built in harmony with its environment, yet also at risk of slow burial over time. Could the city's partial disappearance have been entirely natural, the result of flooding and sedimentation? Or is there evidence of deliberate erasure, a decision to conceal Tanis from history itself? The ancient Egyptians were masters of symbolic communication and secrecy. Could Tanis have been, in part, a city meant to vanish from ordinary memory while preserving its treasures for the initiated? Walking through the remaining streets of Tanis, one senses the weight of history pressing through the silence. The city is not merely ruins, it is a puzzle, a carefully layered narrative of power, devotion, and enigma. Each crumbling column, each shadowed doorway, evokes questions that have endured for centuries. And as modern technology probes beneath the sands, scanning for chambers, tunnels, or artifacts yet undiscovered, the city continues to defy definitive answers. Tanis reminds us that history is not always fully visible, that the past can hold secrets so well concealed that even centuries of scholarship and exploration reveal only fragments. It challenges us to consider what remains hidden beneath its dunes and waters, what mysteries were intentionally protected, and what truths might still lie waiting for discovery. The city is a silent testament to ingenuity, devotion, and the enduring power of mystery. A place where the line between known history and the unexplained is deliberately, tantalizingly blurred. And so, Tanis endures, a forgotten city whispering through the windswept delta, its treasures partially uncovered, its passages partially mapped, and its mysteries largely unsolved. What lies buried beneath the sands, still untouched by modern hands, remains a question as compelling as the Nile's eternal current, a question that invites the imagination to wander and the curiosity to persist into the hidden heart of one of Egypt's most enigmatic cities. As the sun dips low over the horizon, casting long shadows across the sacred sands of Abydos, One structure seems to absorb the fading light, swallowing it into a darkness that feels almost eternal. Nestled behind the more prominent temple of Seti I, partially hidden from immediate view, lies the Osireion, an enigmatic stone edifice that whispers secrets older than the temple itself. Unlike the meticulously adorned walls of Seti's mortuary temple, the Osireion presents a stark, almost forbidding facade, its massive megalithic stones forming a subterranean chamber that sinks deep into the earth. It is here, in this cool, shadowed realm, that the boundaries between history and the inexplicable begin to blur. The Osireion, often referred to as the Tomb of Osiris, stretches over a large subterranean basin, its massive granite pillars rising from a reflective pool of water that perpetually fills the floor of the chamber. This pool is more than a mere architectural curiosity. Its existence has sparked countless questions among archaeologists and enthusiasts alike. Why was this immense, sunken hall filled with water? Could it symbolize the primordial waters of creation, as Osiris himself represents death and rebirth? Or might it have had a more practical function, perhaps as a reservoir, an underground sanctuary, or even a site for rituals lost to the sands of time? The precise dating of the Osireion remains a source of debate. Mainstream Egyptologists generally associate its construction with the reign of Pharaoh Seti I, around 1290 to 1279 BCE, suggesting it was designed as a cenotaph or symbolic tomb to honor the god Osiris. Yet, the structure's unusual design, its inverted layout, massive stone blocks, and subterranean placement, differs markedly from the architectural conventions of the New Kingdom. Some researchers have proposed that it may be far older, predating Seti's temple by centuries, or perhaps even millennia. The evidence, etched in stone and shadow, is tantalizingly incomplete. The megalithic stones themselves invite wonder. Some weigh dozens of tons, perfectly fitted together without the aid of mortar, forming a labyrinthine network of chambers, corridors, and recesses. The precision of their placement, the sheer scale of the stones, and the mystery of their quarrying and transportation challenge conventional explanations. How did workers in an era without modern machinery manage such feats? Did they rely on techniques lost to history, or could there be methods of construction that we have yet to fully comprehend? Here, in the cool, echoing halls of the Osireion, questions seem as solid as the stones themselves. Intriguingly, the Osireion contains no inscriptions or reliefs to guide our understanding, at least none that survive the passage of millennia. Unlike other temples where pharaohs proclaim their deeds and gods reveal their myths in elaborate carvings, the Osireion offers silence. And it is this very silence that has invited speculation. Could this have been a place reserved for secret rituals, known only to a select few? Was it a symbolic gateway, a physical representation of the Egyptian underworld, meant to echo the cyclical journey of Osiris through death and rebirth? Or more provocatively, might it conceal knowledge, technology, or spiritual practices so ancient that they have been lost entirely to time? Some researchers have proposed more extraordinary interpretations. The alignment of the Osireion with celestial bodies, for instance, hints at a possible astronomical purpose, echoing the way other ancient structures reflect the cycles of stars and planets. Others point to the water that fills the central basin, suggesting it may have amplified acoustics, ritualistic sound, or even energy in ways we do not yet understand. Could the Osireion have been an ancient laboratory of sorts, a convergence of architecture, water, and celestial design intended to facilitate experiences beyond ordinary human perception? These ideas remain speculative, yet the precision of the structure and the sheer scale of its construction continue to fuel debate. Exploring the Osireion today, one is struck by the atmosphere it evokes. The cool air, the faint scent of ancient stone, and the still waters create a sense of quiet contemplation. Standing among the towering pillars, one cannot help but feel a connection to those who walked these halls thousands of years ago, performing ceremonies and offering homage to gods who embodied life, death, and the eternal mysteries in between. And yet, despite centuries of study, many questions linger. Was the Osireion merely a cenotaph, or is it a remnant of a forgotten civilization, a repository of knowledge, or a spiritual conduit bridging the realms of the living and the dead? Even the simplest details remain cloaked in uncertainty. The depth of the subterranean chambers, the origin of the enormous stones, and the purpose of the reflective pool all resist easy explanation. Every answer seems to raise yet another question, a puzzle wrapped within the very bedrock of Egypt's sacred landscape. Perhaps the most enduring mystery is not the structure itself, but our own limitations in fully comprehending it. In the Osireion, time feels suspended. It invites us to pause, to reflect, and to wonder. As the last rays of light fade from the surface and the subterranean waters mirror the dim glow of the sky above, one is left with a profound sense of humility. Here is a place that defies simple categorization, a monument to human ingenuity, devotion, and perhaps something more. Could there still be aspects of its construction, purpose, or symbolism that have eluded our understanding entirely? The Osireion waits in silence, a subterranean testament to a past that refuses to yield all its secrets, leaving us to ponder what other mysteries may lie hidden just beyond the reach of our current knowledge. Just as the Osireion rises from the sands of Abydos, steeped in shadow and silence, another set of ancient enigmas emerges, not from the earth itself, but from clay and cuneiform inked in an age long past. In the quiet, dimly lit rooms of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, hundreds of small, rectangular tablets lie carefully arranged, their surfaces etched with thousands of characters that once traveled across empires. These are the Amarna Letters, messengers of diplomacy, whispers of power, and fragments of a world now distant and almost unimaginable. The letters were discovered in the late 19th century near the site of Akhetaten, the city built by Pharaoh Akhenaten in the mid-14th century BCE, a city dedicated to the worship of Aten, the sun disk. Unlike the grand temples and monumental statues that dominate the Egyptian landscape, these clay tablets are modest, easily overlooked, yet they carry a weight far greater than their size might suggest. Each tablet, inscribed in cuneiform, the script of Mesopotamia rather than Egypt, represents correspondence between the pharaohs of Egypt and the rulers of distant lands, Babylonia, Assyria, Hatti, Mitanni, even far-off Cyprus. What is remarkable about the Amarna Letters is not merely their survival over 3 millennia, but the unprecedented window they offer into the geopolitics of the ancient Near East. Through them, we see kings pleading for gold, negotiating marriages, reporting on rebellions, and requesting military aid. We witness a network of diplomacy that challenges our assumptions about ancient communication. How, in an era without modern travel or technology, did messages traverse vast deserts and treacherous seas, arriving intact and intelligible across continents? The logistics alone are extraordinary, hinting at a level of organization and sophistication that often goes unrecognized. Yet, for all their clarity, the letters also contain anomalies, moments where the historical record becomes hazy, where the mundane slips into the mysterious. Some tablets contain phrases that defy easy translation, invoking gods, omens, or warnings whose precise meaning may forever be obscured. One letter, written by a foreign ruler, insists that Egypt is under threat from forces unseen, referencing names and events that appear nowhere else in the historical record. Were these coded messages, ritualized forms of diplomacy, or simply misinterpretations lost in translation? The letters also reveal the turbulent reign of Akhenaten himself, a pharaoh whose devotion to Aten radically reshaped Egyptian religion and society. While the tablets primarily focus on international matters, their tone reflects an undercurrent of tension. Alliances faltered, local governors threatened insurrection, and foreign kings questioned Akhenaten's authority. Some scholars suggest that the letters hint at a period of instability so profound that it may have contributed to the eventual decline of Akhenaten. Others wonder if the peculiarities of Akhenaten's rule, from his monotheistic reforms to his architectural innovations, were part of a larger, unrecorded experiment in governance, one whose effects remain partly hidden beneath the sands and ruins. Intriguingly, certain aspects of the letters challenge the chronology and understanding of the period. Some of the foreign rulers referenced appear to exist in no other record outside the tablets, raising the possibility of lost civilizations, dynasties, or even connections that modern archaeology has yet to uncover. Could these anomalies represent gaps in our historical knowledge, scribal errors, or something more enigmatic? A glimpse into political or cultural networks that were deliberately concealed or forgotten? The tablets, despite their utilitarian purpose, seem to hint at a broader world just beyond our grasp. Physical examination of the tablets only deepens the mystery. Each is baked clay, hardened by fire or sun, inscribed with meticulous care. Yet traces of pigment, uneven impressions, and occasional smudges suggest hurried work, corrections, or even ritualistic preparation. Were these letters simply correspondence, or did the act of writing itself carry symbolic weight? Some scholars have speculated that the letters might have been imbued with spiritual significance, perhaps intended to transmit not just words, but power, authority, or divine favor across the distances they traveled. The idea remains speculative, yet the meticulousness and care with which these tiny objects were crafted imply a reverence that transcends mere diplomacy. Modern technology has allowed for high-resolution imaging and spectral analysis, revealing details invisible to the naked eye. Fingerprints of ancient scribes, subtle traces of ink, and even evidence of previously unknown corrections or additions. Each discovery generates more questions than answers, hinting at the lives of those who handled the tablets and the complex bureaucracy behind their creation and delivery. How did scribes achieve such consistency in a language that was not their own? How were errors reconciled, and how did these messages maintain their authority across vast distances? The human element, preserved in clay, speaks across millennia, yet leaves us guessing about motivations, fears, and ambitions that cannot be fully known. As we study the Amarna Letters today, one cannot help but feel the presence of voices long silenced. They speak of kings and commoners, of alliances and betrayals, of faith, fear, and the fragile threads of human connection stretched across deserts and seas. And yet, for all the insight they provide, the letters also underscore the vast gaps in our understanding. Certain correspondences remain untranslated, fragments scattered, and some messages forever lost. Could they conceal knowledge, events, or relationships that would fundamentally alter our perception of the Late Bronze Age? Or do they simply remind us that even in an age of meticulous record-keeping, much of history remains inaccessible, tantalizingly out of reach? The Amarna Letters, modest in size yet immense in significance, remain a testament to the complexity of the ancient world. They invite us to reflect not only on the civilizations that produced them, but also on the enduring mysteries they carry. In their silent clay, inscribed with foreign symbols and ancient hands, lies an open question. How much of history is preserved, and how much remains hidden, waiting for the next curious mind to unlock its secrets? From the delicate whispers of diplomacy captured on the Amarna Letters, we turn now to a monument of stone, silent yet resonant across centuries. A key, as it would prove, to unlocking one of the most enigmatic languages in human history. The Rosetta Stone, fractured and darkened by time, rests today in the British Museum under careful lighting, its surface scarred but dignified. At first glance, it is an unassuming slab of granodiorite, roughly 3 feet tall, bearing 3 distinct scripts carved into its face. Yet within those inscriptions lies a mystery that would challenge scholars for decades and ultimately illuminate the long silent voice of ancient Egypt. Discovered in 1799 by French soldiers near the town of Rashid or Rosetta during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt, the stone was initially just another artifact among many. But its significance quickly became apparent. Its surface bears a decree issued in 196 BCE, during the reign of King Ptolemy V, written in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and the long-forgotten hieroglyphs of Egypt's sacred scribes. The Greek was immediately intelligible to scholars, while the Demotic offered a bridge, and the hieroglyphs, a language of symbols that had been indecipherable for centuries, posed the greatest challenge. How could these intricate symbols, representing gods, kings, and abstract concepts, be translated? How could a civilization that had vanished leave behind a voice so tantalizingly near yet so inaccessible? For years, the stone frustrated even the most brilliant minds. Countless attempts to decode the hieroglyphs ended in partial success, or dead ends. Scholars could recognize certain signs as representing objects or sounds, but the full structure of the language remained elusive. The hieroglyphs seemed to embody not just a language, but a philosophy of thought, a symbolic system intertwined with religion, power, and art. Why had the Egyptians written in such a layered, multifaceted script? Was it simply a matter of ritualistic tradition? Or did it encode meaning beyond what we initially imagined, a hidden knowledge preserved in plain sight? The breakthrough came with the work of French linguist Jean-François Champollion. By comparing the Greek and hieroglyphic texts, he gradually unlocked the phonetic elements of the hieroglyphs, revealing that the symbols could represent sounds as well as ideas. Slowly, painstakingly, the ancient tongue began to speak again. For the first time in nearly 1,500 years, the words of priests, scribes, and kings could be read, offering glimpses into the beliefs, administration, and daily life of a civilization long thought silent. Yet even as Champollion's work illuminated the hieroglyphs, it raised new questions. Why had this knowledge been lost so completely? And why had it survived only in fragments, scattered across temples, tombs, and stelae? Beyond the scholarly triumph, the Rosetta Stone has its own mysteries. The stone itself is not perfectly preserved. Its edges are broken, its top chipped, and the full context of the decree is lost. Some suggest that it was one of several copies, perhaps intended for display in temples, while others note inconsistencies in spelling and phrasing that hint at regional variations or deliberate alterations. Could there have been political or religious motives behind these variations? And if so, what might these choices reveal about the shifting power dynamics of the Ptolemaic era, where Greek rulers and Egyptian traditions intersected in uneasy coexistence? Moreover, the very act of decoding the stone touches on broader enigmas about knowledge and transmission. How did the art of hieroglyphic writing, so central to one of the world's most advanced civilizations, vanish almost entirely? Some historians point to the gradual suppression of Egyptian religion after the rise of Christianity, the abandonment of temple complexes, or the decline of native scribal schools. Yet even with these explanations, the speed and completeness of the disappearance remain striking. Could it be that aspects of hieroglyphic knowledge, ritual meanings, secret codes, or esoteric teachings were intentionally hidden, accessible only to those initiated into particular priestly orders? The Rosetta Stone also invites speculation about its journey through history. Found during a time of conquest, It became both a prize of war and a symbol of imperial acquisition, moving from Egypt to France, and ultimately to Britain. In its inscriptions, we glimpse not only the words of Ptolemy V, but also the layers of meaning that successive civilizations projected onto the artifact. How much of the stone's significance lies in the text itself, and how much in the human stories it has collected along the way, from the scribes who carved it, to the soldiers who discovered it, to the scholars who unlocked its secrets. Each layer adds depth to the mystery, reminding us that the Rosetta Stone is not merely a relic, but a nexus of history, language, and human curiosity. Even with the hieroglyphs decoded, some aspects remain puzzling. Certain symbols, rarely used, appear only in ceremonial contexts, their precise intent ambiguous. Some words have multiple interpretations, and nuances of rhythm, tone, or spiritual resonance may be lost forever. The Rosetta Stone offers a bridge between the modern world and ancient Egypt, yet it also demonstrates how much remains inaccessible. Can we ever fully grasp the mind of a civilization whose worldviews, cosmology, and cultural priorities were so deeply different from our own? Or will there always be aspects of their language, thought, and intent that elude us, preserved only in the shadows of stone? Today, standing before the Rosetta Stone, one cannot help but feel a quiet awe. Its fractured surface, its 3 inscriptions, and its silent authority invite reflection not only on the achievements of human intellect, but also on the mysteries that endure despite our best efforts. It reminds us that knowledge can be both revealed and concealed, that even a breakthrough can open doors to questions far deeper than the answers it provides. In this sense, the Rosetta Stone is more than a key to hieroglyphs. It is a mirror to the enduring enigma of human history itself, a puzzle that continues to challenge, intrigue, and inspire wonder. From the inscribed clarity of the Rosetta Stone, our journey moves southward across the vast desert plateau of Dashur, where the sands meet the sky in endless horizons. Rising against this backdrop is a structure unlike any other in Egypt, a pyramid that seems caught mid-transformation, its lower portion angled steeply upward before abruptly bending to a gentler slope. This is the bent pyramid of Pharaoh Sneferu, an architectural enigma that has puzzled scholars, engineers, and historians for centuries. Its unusual shape, perfectly visible even from miles away, hints at a story of ambition, experimentation, and perhaps even mystery. Constructed around 2600 BCE, the bent pyramid is one of the earliest true pyramids, a transitional monument bridging the step-sided forms of Djoser's Saqqara complex and the smooth-sided perfection of Giza. Its lower section rises at an angle of approximately 54 degrees before shifting midway to a more moderate 43 degrees. To the modern eye, this sudden change suggests a correction, a solution to a problem encountered during construction. Yet the reasons for the adjustment remain debated. Was it a precaution against structural collapse, a change in engineering knowledge, or a deliberate aesthetic choice designed to communicate something we do not yet fully understand? The pyramid was built during the reign of Sneferu, a pharaoh renowned not only for his ambitious building projects, but also for his experimentation with pyramid design. Nearby stands the Red Pyramid, often considered the first successful true pyramid, with its smooth sides and stable structure. Yet the bent pyramid retains a sense of intrigue, a monument that defies straightforward explanation. Its dual slopes, rare in Egyptian architecture, raise questions about the technical challenges faced by ancient builders. Could the bent pyramid represent a transitional experiment in geometry and construction, a trial-and-error approach that foreshadowed later architectural mastery? Or might it conceal symbolic meanings, encoded in its very angles and proportions that we have yet to decipher? Upon closer inspection, the bent pyramid reveals features that heighten its mystery. Unlike most pyramids, its original polished limestone casing largely survives, shimmering faintly under the sun. The internal passages are unusually complex, with multiple entrances and corridors that seem to diverge from traditional layouts. Archaeologists have noted inconsistencies in construction techniques, variations in stone size, alignment, and workmanship that suggest improvisation or adaptation during building. Were these irregularities purely practical, responses to unexpected structural stresses, or could they indicate ritualistic or symbolic choices, decisions that spoke to beliefs or traditions now lost to time? Beyond the physical structure, the pyramid invites speculation about the ambitions and vision of Sneferu himself. He built at least 3 major pyramids, an extraordinary feat even by Egyptian standards, suggesting a ruler willing to challenge conventions in pursuit of immortality and legacy. Some theories posit that the bent pyramid represents a deliberate attempt to experiment with angles and load-bearing designs, a hands-on approach to solving problems in real time. Others, more speculative, suggest that its unusual form could encode astronomical or cosmological information, aligning with the sun, stars, or specific points on the horizon in ways that modern observers may only partially understand. The surrounding complex adds further layers to the mystery. Satellite pyramids, causeways, and temples accompany the main structure, yet many of these auxiliary buildings appear unfinished or abandoned. Were they intended as functional spaces, ceremonial adjuncts, or merely extensions of a symbolic plan that remained incomplete? The interplay between the bent pyramid, the red pyramid, and other nearby monuments suggests a period of rapid innovation and experimentation, but it also raises questions about the decision-making processes of ancient architects. How much of the design was dictated by religious or political imperatives, and how much emerged from trial, error, and practical necessity? Modern examinations using advanced imaging and structural analysis continue to probe the pyramid's secrets. Cracks and stress points within the stone, deviations from geometric precision, and variations in mortar composition all hint at the difficulties faced by builders millennia ago. Yet, even with contemporary technology, some mysteries persist. Why was the angle changed at that precise point? Why does the internal layout diverge from other pyramids of the era? And perhaps most compellingly, what messages, if any, were intended by this architectural anomaly, messages lost in plain sight amid the desert sands? The bent pyramid also invites reflection on the broader nature of Egyptian innovation. Here is a civilization achieving feats of engineering that would challenge modern builders, yet doing so with limited tools and in the harsh conditions of the desert. It prompts us to consider the intersection of human ambition, intuition, and knowledge, how ancient builders translated abstract vision into massive stone reality, how their successes and errors alike shaped the trajectory of architecture for generations. Could there have been insights or techniques embedded in the bent pyramid's construction that we have not yet grasped? Could its unusual form have served purposes beyond the practical, encoding secrets of mathematics, astronomy, or ritual practice? Standing before the bent pyramid, one is struck by its quiet defiance. It is neither entirely symmetrical nor entirely understood, yet it commands attention through sheer scale and singularity. Its angles, passages, and casing stones speak of hands and minds dedicated to creation, experimentation, and perhaps even discovery beyond our comprehension. The monument invites not only admiration for its physical presence, but also reflection on the unknown elements that persist around it. How much of Sneferu's intent can we ever truly discern, and what remains hidden in the spaces between stone and shadow, angle and axis, human ambition, and the desert's indifferent silence? The bent pyramid endures as a testament to the audacity of ancient Egypt, a physical manifestation of both human ingenuity and enduring mystery. It challenges our assumptions, evokes questions that span millennia, and reminds us that even in an era of remarkable clarity, where hieroglyphs can speak and clay tablets record empires, some secrets remain tantalizingly beyond reach, waiting for the curious and the patient to ponder what might still lie hidden within its ancient stones. From the bending silhouette of Sneferu's pyramid, our journey turns now to the shadows beneath the sands of Giza, where a different kind of marvel lies hidden, preserved in silence for millennia. These are the solar boats of Khufu, colossal wooden vessels buried alongside the Great Pyramid, their purpose and origin inviting both scholarly investigation and whispered speculation. Unlike stone monuments that dominate the horizon, these boats speak in softer, subtler tones, yet their presence evokes questions as profound as the pyramids themselves. Why were they constructed? Why buried? And what secrets do they carry about the ancient Egyptians' understanding of death, the cosmos, and the afterlife? The most famous of these vessels, sometimes called Khufu's solar bark, was discovered in 1954 by the Egyptian archaeologist Kamal el-Malak in a narrow pit on the pyramid's southern side. Carefully dismantled millennia ago, it lay preserved beneath layers of limestone, hidden from view until modern excavators revealed its astonishing craftsmanship. Measuring nearly 140 feet in length and constructed primarily of cedar, the boat is remarkably intact, its hull planks joined with meticulous precision, using rope and mortise and tenon joints. Even today, the wood and construction techniques provoke awe. How did a civilization without metal fasteners or modern tools create a vessel of such size, capable of withstanding both the test of time and the forces of its intended voyage? Scholars generally agree that the boats were ceremonial in purpose, intended to transport the pharaoh in the afterlife, symbolically linking him with Ra, the sun god. The ancient Egyptians believed that the king would travel across the sky in a solar bark, rising each day with the sun and descending each night into the underworld. Yet even this accepted explanation leaves questions unresolved. Why would the Egyptians expend such extraordinary resources and skill to construct full-size functional vessels if they were never meant to sail? Were these boats purely symbolic? Or might they have had a practical function we cannot yet imagine, perhaps linked to rituals, astronomical observations, or sacred journeys along the Nile? The construction itself raises further enigmas. The cedar used in the Khufu boat was imported from Lebanon, thousands of miles away, indicating a level of logistical coordination and maritime expertise that modern researchers are only beginning to appreciate. Each plank is precisely shaped and meticulously fitted, yet subtle irregularities in alignment suggest that ancient builders may have followed a complex blend of standardized design and intuitive adjustment. Could these nuances reflect lost knowledge, techniques and measurements known only to master shipwrights of the time, or were they simply practical improvisations during construction? The burial method of the boats adds another layer to the mystery. They were disassembled, carefully lowered into pits, and reassembled in situ, an enormous effort that would have required advanced planning, enormous manpower, and knowledge of structural stresses. Why bury a fully constructed vessel rather than leaving it to sail the Nile or float along ceremonial waterways? And why bury multiple boats, as Khufu's complex eventually revealed? Some theorists have suggested that the pits themselves, aligned precisely with the pyramid and cardinal points, could hold symbolic significance, perhaps representing celestial routes or reflecting the pharaoh's journey across the heavens. Others propose that these were functional vessels, intended for use in sacred rites or ritualistic recreations of cosmic events. But if so, what precisely did those rites entail, and why is so little recorded in surviving texts? The boats also fuel more speculative ideas. Their meticulous design and apparent seaworthiness have led some to wonder whether they were not merely symbolic but practical craft capable of significant travel. Could they have been used for journeys along the Nile, or even for ceremonial expeditions into the desert, where water was absent and symbolism required the material presence of a vessel? Some fringe theories even suggest that the Egyptians possessed lost technologies or knowledge that allowed them to construct vessels of unprecedented durability and efficiency, echoing the skill required to erect the Great Pyramid itself. While these ideas remain speculative, the sheer precision and ambition of the boats invite such questions, challenging assumptions about the limits of ancient craftsmanship. Equally compelling is the question of preservation. How did the wooden planks survive over 4,500 years buried beneath the arid sands? While Egypt's dry climate accounts for much, the careful construction, sealing techniques, and choice of durable materials suggest a sophisticated understanding of longevity. Was this preservation accidental, or did the builders intentionally design the boats to endure the millennia, ensuring that Khufu's journey into eternity would be accompanied by vessels as resilient as the pyramids themselves? As we contemplate the solar boats today, displayed in their reconstructed museum enclosures, their silent presence invites reflection. They are at once practical, ceremonial, and enigmatic, physical manifestations of a civilization's vision of life, death, and cosmic order. The Great Pyramid casts its monumental shadow over them, yet the boats tell a subtler story, of ambition on a human scale, of devotion to tradition, and of the mysteries the Egyptians sought to master, both earthly and divine. And yet, despite the careful study, the solar boats remain a puzzle. What exact role did they play in Khufu's funerary cult? Did they carry secrets of navigation, celestial knowledge, or sacred geometry that are now lost? Or were they purely symbolic, meant to accompany a king into eternity, tangible reminders of his connection to the sun, the river, and the heavens? Their presence prompts a haunting question that lingers in the quiet spaces of the museum halls and the desert sands alike. What other knowledge, what other marvels remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be rediscovered, as silent and inscrutable as these extraordinary vessels? As the echoes of the solar boats fade beneath the sands of Giza, our attention turns to a different kind of enigma, one not carved from stone or assembled from timber, but traced in the fragile threads of bloodlines, succession, and memory. This is the mystery of Merneptah, the 13th son of Ramesses II, who ascended the throne of Egypt at an advanced age after the deaths of his elder siblings. Known for his military campaigns and for the remarkable Merneptah stele, which contains the earliest known mention of Israel, Merneptah's reign is well documented. But what becomes elusive is the lineage that followed him, a thread that appears to fray and disappear in the annals of history. Merneptah ruled Egypt for roughly a decade, from around 1213 to 1203 BCE, during a time when the new kingdom was at the height of its power. Yet, despite the apparent strength of his rule, the succession that followed is shrouded in ambiguity. Ancient records suggest that his son, Seti II, inherited the throne, but the details of the dynastic transition remain fragmented and sometimes contradictory. Tomb inscriptions, royal genealogies, and later historical accounts offer glimpses of heirs. Yet the broader picture of Merneptah's lineage is fractured. How could a dynasty so meticulously recorded and revered allow such uncertainty to seep into its story? Was this an accident of time, a loss of documents, or something more deliberate? An erasure of certain branches of the royal family for political or religious reasons? The Merneptah stele itself adds a curious dimension to the mystery. While primarily a record of military triumphs, its very existence hints at a king preoccupied with legacy and memory. If the stele was meant to immortalize Merneptah's achievements, why then is the fate of his descendants so poorly preserved? Could this gap be an echo of internal conflict, palace intrigue, or a contested succession that left certain heirs unrecorded or deliberately obscured? Scholars have long debated the possibility that rival factions within the court or priesthood may have sought to legitimize alternate claimants, leaving historians with only partial and sometimes contradictory records. Archaeology offers fragments of evidence that deepen the intrigue. The tombs attributed to Merneptah and his immediate family are impressive yet incomplete. Hieroglyphic inscriptions detail the king's daughters and sons, but many burial sites remain unexplored or deteriorated, and the artifacts recovered do not always align neatly with the textual records. Could missing tombs hint at a lineage deliberately hidden, or perhaps destroyed, during periods of political unrest? And if so, what secrets might have been lost? Ritual practices, family alliances, or even knowledge considered too dangerous or controversial to pass down. Adding to the mystery is the fact that Merneptah was a late-born son, taking the throne after decades of his father's reign. This unusual timing may have disrupted the natural order of succession, creating tension among royal heirs, and perhaps even forcing the king to elevate less prepared or politically expedient successors. In the fragile ecosystem of royal succession, where legitimacy, power, and divine favor intersected, a single misstep could ripple across generations. Was the disappearance of Merneptah's broader lineage an outcome of such fragile political maneuvering? Or does it point to something deeper, a hidden chapter of Egyptian history that was never meant to be seen? Speculative theories have also emerged, reflecting the air of mystery that surrounds the vanished lineage. Some researchers propose that intermarriage with non-royal or foreign families may have complicated the record, causing later scribes to obscure certain descendants to maintain the appearance of a pure dynastic line. Others suggest that disasters, natural, social, or even violent upheavals, could have decimated branches of the family, leaving only scattered traces. There are even fringe ideas, whispered in academic footnotes and speculative histories alike, suggesting that some royal descendants may have fled Egypt entirely, leaving behind a lineage that continued elsewhere, unrecorded and unacknowledged by the official chronicles. Despite centuries of research, these questions remain largely unanswered. Textual records provide names and titles, yet the gaps and inconsistencies hint at stories untold. Tombs are sealed or damaged, and artifacts are incomplete, leaving us with tantalizing glimpses but no complete narrative. The very absence of clarity becomes part of the mystery itself, a silent testament to the fragility of memory and the power of history to both preserve and conceal. As we ponder Merneptah's vanished lineage, we are left with a series of open questions. What became of his other children, those less documented or perhaps deliberately erased from memory? Could evidence of their existence still lie buried beneath the sands, awaiting rediscovery? And what might these missing pieces tell us, not only about Merneptah's family, but about the inner workings of a civilization that balanced divine kingship with human ambition and recorded triumphs while concealing its vulnerabilities? The vanished lineage of Merneptah reminds us that history is rarely complete, that even the mightiest rulers leave traces that are partial, fragmented, and enigmatic. In the quiet corridors of time, the story of a dynasty is not always a straight line. It is a web of presence and absence, of recorded deeds and hidden fates, inviting us to look closer, to question more deeply, and to wonder what remains undiscovered, hidden just beneath the surface of the sands that have preserved Egypt's secrets for millennia. From the silent grandeur of royal tombs and the mysteries of vanished lineages, we now turn toward the restless waters of the Nile Delta, where the whispers of history speak not from stone, but from beneath the river itself. Here, submerged under layers of silt and brackish water, lie the ruins often referred to as the hidden underwater city of the pharaohs, a place that challenges our understanding of both geography and memory, and compels us to question the boundaries between legend and archaeology. The city's existence first entered modern consciousness through scattered reports of submerged structures near the ancient sites of Heraklion and Canopus, long swallowed by the shifting delta. divers in the late 20th century began to uncover stone blocks, statues, and monumental columns remarkably preserved in their underwater tombs. Sunken streets and the faint outlines of harbor walls suggest a sprawling urban network, once vibrant and bustling with trade, worship, and daily life. These ruins reveal a civilization that thrived at the confluence of land and river, yet today they are ghostly, alien in their silent repose, and accessible only to those willing to brave murky depths. Historical records offer tantalizing glimpses of these cities' significance. Herakleion, for example, is frequently mentioned in Greek accounts as a vital port connecting Egypt to the wider Mediterranean. Temples dedicated to gods such as Amun and Osiris stood at its heart, while grand marketplaces thrived along its canals. And yet, despite these references, much of what is recorded is fragmentary. Echoes of names and events without accompanying topography or material evidence. Could the submersion have been gradual, a combination of rising waters, earthquakes, and shifting sediment, or was it a sudden cataclysm that erased these urban centers from collective memory? Archaeologists have pieced together extraordinary artifacts, colossal statues, intricately carved obelisks, bronze coins, and fragments of everyday pottery, each hinting at a civilization as sophisticated and complex as any on dry land. The underwater context, however, adds a layer of mystery. Why were these cities allowed, or forced, to sink? Some suggest that the encroaching waters of the Nile Delta, combined with seismic activity, caused structural failure over centuries. Others propose more speculative ideas. Could human intervention, deliberate flooding, or forgotten hydraulic engineering have played a role in their disappearance? The scale of what lies beneath the waves is enough to provoke wonder and caution about how much of history remains hidden, literally out of reach. The engineering of these submerged cities is itself enigmatic. Monolithic blocks, some weighing several tons, remain aligned in ways that imply careful urban planning. Streets and canals follow geometric precision, and temple foundations echo designs found in dryland Egyptian cities, yet adapted for a waterlogged environment. Could these adaptations hint at advanced knowledge of hydrology or water management lost to time? How did the ancient builders anticipate, or respond to, the slow encroachment of water that eventually claimed their city? And what technologies might they have employed to stabilize structures against the relentless flow of the Nile and the shifting sediments of its delta? Adding to the intrigue is the interplay of mythology and archaeology. Ancient texts reference gods emerging from or inhabiting watery domains, and temples submerged in the delta may have been deliberately aligned with celestial or seasonal cycles connected to the Nile's inundation. Some scholars suggest that the underwater ruins were not merely accidental losses, but that their positioning and eventual submersion may have held ritual significance, an offering to the gods, or a symbolic merging of city and sacred waters. Could the stories of lost cities in Egyptian mythology, such as those whispered in the Tale of the Two Brothers or the Book of the Dead, be reflections of these real-world disasters, encoded in allegory and ritual memory? Even the discovery process itself feels touched by mystery. Remote sensing, sonar mapping, and deep diving have revealed monumental inscriptions and statues of gods and pharaohs, yet large sections of the city remain inaccessible, buried under centuries of silt. Every dive uncovers fragments of the past: a statue's foot, a temple column, a stela with faded hieroglyphs, yet the complete picture eludes us. What secrets might be hidden just beyond the reach of current exploration? Could there be palaces, libraries, or religious complexes preserved in a state of near-pristine abandonment, waiting to tell stories that could reshape our understanding of ancient Egypt's relationship with water, trade, and power? As we peer into these silent depths, it becomes clear that the hidden underwater city of the pharaohs is more than a curiosity of geology or history. It is a reminder of how much of human achievement can vanish beneath the elements, leaving behind tantalizing traces that challenge our assumptions and beckon us toward discovery. Each submerged street and temple fragment is a fragment of narrative, some chronicling triumph, some tragedy, all inviting us to imagine the lives that once animated this lost city. And so, we are left with a question as fluid and enduring as the waters themselves. How much of Egypt's past lies submerged, waiting to be found? And what stories of kings, citizens, and civilizations remain silent beneath the waves, unseen yet enduring, whispering their secrets to those who dare to look?